This meeting is called to order. Good evening and welcome to the City of Boynton Beach City Commission meeting. Today is May 3rd, 2022, and the time is now 5:31 p.m. Before we proceed, I'd like to remind everyone here in attendance that to ensure that all voices are heard and protected, I will uphold and enforce the rules of the decorum in accordance with our city's decorum ordinance and Florida Statute 871.01. Disruptive behavior will receive a warning, and should disruptions persist, the Sergeant at Arms will be directed to take appropriate measures. If you are asked to leave, you will not be readmitted to the chambers. Order must be maintained at all times so the rights of all individuals may be protected, and we, the Commission, may conduct the business of the city. Madam Clerk, Ms. Gibson, could you please begin the roll call?
Mayor Typin Serga,
Here.
Angela Cruz,
Here.
Commissioner Woodrow Hay,
Here.
Commissioner Thomas Turkin, present, Commissioner Amy Kelly.
Here.
Mayor, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Our invocation for this evening will be led by Pastor Emily Ash of First Presbyterian Church and immediately followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Let's all stand for the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance.
Good evening. Let us pray. Merciful God, we are grateful for this beautiful community, the caring leadership and caring community. May your spirit hover over this space and inspire transparency, wisdom, and compassion on all decisions. We ask you to lead us to be a community that cares, respects, and lifts all up. We say all these things in your name. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you, everybody. We're going to move on to agenda approval, additions, deletions, and corrections to the agenda. For myself, I'd like to add one unfinished business. This is a continuation of our previous meeting, which is the search process for a permanent city manager. I'd like to hear from HR what our options are and what that process will look like. But other than that, that's it for me. Any additions, deletions, or corrections from members of the commission?
Yeah, there was one thing that I had brought up at the last commission meeting, not the special one, but about the green space acreage that was required in our ordinance, I believe. I don't see that on the agenda here. So can we, I don't know if that was missed or not. I didn't see it in the minutes either when I reviewed that.
Commissioner, would you like to put that on for a
I
future
would.
agenda?
Yeah, for
Okay.
city staff to review that.
Okay. We'll work with city manager and we'll get it on a future
Thank you.
agenda.
Excellent. Anything else from the commission? Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
Motion to approve the agenda.
We have a
amended.
motion
Second.
and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. The motion passes unanimously. The agenda is amended. Moving on to informational and disclosures by the members of the commission. Let's begin first with, let's go district order, district number 1. That would be
No disclosures.
no disclosure. All right. Let's go to district 2.
No disclosure. I would like to say that I did attend the League of Cities meeting, the general meeting. And also last night, there was a community meeting held at the Carolyn Sims Center. That's it for me.
No disclosures. I did attend the Rock the Plaza at One Boynton and the opening of Man Cave. Great turnout. I think they'll do great. And yeah, that's it.
I don't have any informational disclosures. I did attend Saturday the 23rd, the Earth Day celebration at here at City Hall, and it was a great success. Thank you to the staff for always doing an amazing job with planning these events for the residents.
Thank you. I have a similar disclosures. I attended as many events as I could, the Earth Day celebrations, the Rock the Plaza for the CRA, and the firefighters fishing tournament and chili cook-off as well. And little events here and there on top of that. So thank you so much to everybody, and we'll move on to announcements, community and special events, and presentations. Our first item is a legislative update from our city lobbyist, Matt Forrest. Welcome.
Good evening. For the record, Matt Forrest with Ballard Partners. It's a pleasure to be with you today, back from Tallahassee. For those of you that don't know me yet, I'm Matt Forrest. I represent the city of Boynton Beach in Tallahassee, along with a handful of other local municipalities. I work for a firm called Ballard Partners, and we are, by all Google reports, a top-tier lobbying firm in Tallahassee. You guys get the best of both worlds with me. I live right up the road in West Palm Beach. My background is in local government. I live up the road. It's been a pleasure to represent the city for many, many years. I look forward to continuing to represent the city and getting to know the new faces and kind of giving you guys some history of what we've done in Tallahassee, and also finding out what new initiatives and new ideas we need to continue to pursue up there. This, of course, is always a great time to come and give you kind of a quick verbal update of what happened in Tallahassee. At the same time, this is a horrible setting for a deep dive into legislation. We would eat up your entire clock. And also, as you guys know, a lot of things with Tallahassee is what exactly does the language say, and what is it? How can it be interpreted? So again, there's usually it's a hard time to give a definitive answer on anything. So you should have received back in probably March, or if you haven't, if you took office after this has already gone out, a written report that gives you kind of a deeper dive into each bill. I would use that as kind of a reference point, maybe use that to drill down. And of course, I'm available for one-on-one meetings, phone calls, anything going forward. In fact, I was talking with the staff earlier. It's probably a good time for me to come down and meet each of you face-to-face, one-on-one, to give you an idea of kind of what we do up in Tallahassee, and also give you an idea of how the legislative cycle works. With that said, I'll give you some quick highlights and then, of course, answer any questions you may have. The session wrapped up in March, the very first week in March, up in Tallahassee. 3,685 bills and proposed committee bills were considered. And of course, a lot of those eat up a lot of time and headlines. And I think it's always important to remember, of those 3,685 bills, only about 285 make it across to get to the governor. And even out of that, obviously some get vetoed, just like one did last week. So only about 7% of all the bills that you see get filed, that you hear about legislation wise, make it. I always say it's the unknown, the life expectancy of that little schoolhouse rock bill is that most of those guys die right there on the steps. And so highly unlikely that most bills make it across. But 7% of them did. With that, obviously, were some that we opposed and some that we supported. So I'm going to give you some highlights right now, and these are really just the ones that I think are the most to put kind of in the back of your head when you're thinking of how you're deliberating up here on the dais, to make sure your legal counsel and your staff are aware of some of these changes. Most notably, to start off, the budget, which is always a key thing we work on. We go up to Tallahassee and try to draw down dollars that are important back for the city of Boynton Beach. This year, as I'm sure you have heard, things were very good in the Florida economy based on increased revenue to the state from tourism and from tax collections, also money flowing through from the federal government. This was a very, very good year for the Florida budget. In fact, the legislature passed a $112 billion budget, 112.1, which is a new fiscal year high. From that, one thing I'd like to highlight is $362.7 million in affordable housing programs, which I know is another thing that has been important to Boynton Beach. In that, for you affordable housing aficionados, there was $153.3 million in the SAIL group, which is the State Department Incentive Loan Program, $209.5 million in the State Housing Initiatives Partnership, that's the SHIP money in the Sadowski Fund, and then a new program that's tagged in that area, $100 million for what's called the Florida Hometown Heroes Program. This is getting a lot of attention lately. It was pushed by the realtors. This is a $100 million program that goes towards down payments and closing costs for what are considered hometown heroes: nurses, police officers, teachers, other first responders. Everybody's excited about it. Of course, everybody has questions about it. And unfortunately, there's a line that gives you the money for the program and not a lot of details on what the program is. So I wish I could tell you more about it. As more things are implemented, after the governor does eventually sign the budget, we will get more details on that, because I know that that's something that will probably be important to the city of Boynton Beach, and exactly how you guys can take advantage of that program. In that giant $112 billion budget, this is a spot for members to file their own appropriation requests, member projects. With that, we work with your staff to identify projects that we think are important to the city. And then we work with the members that represent you, the state members and the state House members and the state Senate to file those projects and bring them down. In that whole pot, there were 1,700 requests in the House, 1,800 in the Senate. Of that, 5 were from Boynton Beach, and I'm happy to say 1 is in the final General Appropriation Act. We were able to secure $525,000 for the Regional Crime Prevention Strategy, which is a comprehensive program for implementing standardized security layers, including cameras, call boxes, license plates, and again, according to your staff, money will go towards that real-time crime center and shot spotter. So it's $525,000 that, according to the proposal we put in, would also match local funds to go with it. So it's another great example of rarely are you going to get funding that's going to completely solve the problem. However, right there, hopefully we're going to be able to double at least the city's resources to it. Now, of course, the big asterisk on this is that's in the General Appropriation Act. It has not gone to the governor yet. The governor does have line item veto power in the state of Florida. Eventually, the legislature will send the budget to the governor, and he has the ability to go through and line item veto certain projects out. We have been advocating for the project. As of right now, I haven't heard any issues or concerns from any of the staff members with it. There's a timeline that says what the governor must do once the bill is sent to him. Little odd fact, there's no timeline for when the legislature has to send the budget to the governor. Theoretically, it has to be done by July 1, which is when the next fiscal year starts. Most people that I'm talking with have been telling we think the budget will probably be sent to the governor after the upcoming special session on property insurance, which takes place the week of May 23rd. So we continue to advocate for that project. We hopefully will have, we'll know exactly where we stand on it, hopefully by the end of May or early June. That's where we stand budget-wise, which is always, I think, a big thing to keep in track when we're going up there. Legislatively, there were some not so great bills that passed this year in regards to local governments, but also some wins that I think are important to put on your radar. One, of course, was the most, I would say, the 2 bills most publicized for local governments was SB 620, 569, which is the local business damages bill. This was legislation that basically allows a local business the ability and a cause of action to sue a city if ordinances are passed that then go back and they can prove damage their economic impact of the business. Another, again, this is a great example of the devil's in the details. You've got to read the bill. There are certain things, for example, if it's budget related and you make the change, it doesn't impact them. The business must be in business for so many years. They must be able to show economic damages to a certain level. So you definitely want to read into that. At the same time, your staff should be aware of that bill when you're looking at new ordinances that you may pass. For example, something as simple as changing hours of operations for alcohol establishments in your town could trigger that threshold. You know, you change hours of operations from 2 a.m. to midnight, you could possibly have expose yourselves to a lawsuit based on the loss of revenue in those 2 hours. That bill was approved by the governor, or I'm sorry, was approved by the legislature, has not gone to the governor yet. Another similar bill to that got a lot of headlines was the Business Impact Statements bill. This was legislation that would require you to do more economic due diligence before you pass an ordinance, and would also create a pathway if a business wanted to challenge those changes. This bill did not pass. So I think it's a good example. Again, if you read the headlines, all session we fought on both of those. One passed, one did not. I think it'll be back though. One bill that I think didn't get enough attention that I think is important to especially cities of your size is more changes to legal notices. Legislation was passed that changes the requirements for how you need to legally notice anything from meetings to certain ordinances. Basically, we're talking about advertisements. I'm sure you have a probably sizable line item in your budget for advertisements in the newspaper. This bill changes that, and it gives you the ability to do things on a website rather than putting all these things in the newspaper. Again, if you so choose. So I think it's something to keep in mind, especially when you're going into your budget. That might be a way to free up some dollars if you need to. Other bills that did not pass, that got a lot of attention, that I want to make sure you realize did not pass. Sovereign immunity changes. There was a lot of legislation, a lot of talk. There was a bill moving through the process that would have removed the cap for sovereign immunity from $200,000 to up to $1 million during one version of the bill. That did not pass. So no change on that this year. Vacation rental legislation also did not change or move. That fight's been going back and forth, as you guys know, for many, many years. No change, status quo is wherever you got on the books is the same way. And also lastly, mandatory building inspections. This was legislation that was filed and pushed in the result of course, the tragedy that happened down south of here regarding the condo collapse. Legislation did not change regarding that as well, regarding mandatory business inspections. So that's what did pass and what didn't pass. Again, I would say dive into the details, look at the report, look at your League of Cities report, and anything new, any ideas you want to have or things that trigger thoughts, make sure you just reach out to me and I can give you more insight on them. What's next? So normally I would tell you that's the end of the legislative session and we'll go back up again in 2023. However, you've already probably seen there's been one special session regarding redistricting and I've gone some expansion of some other little things. There is one slated for May 23rd, the week of May 23rd. Currently the call, unlike a regular session where a general session, anything can get filed by a member. During a special session, only legislation that fits in the narrow scope of what has been called for is allowed to be filed. So far, that narrow scope for the May 23rd special session is property insurance related. However, there's a good chance before May 23rd it's expanded. So we have to watch and see how it is expanded and what goes on in that area. Once that session is done, I think they'll probably be pretty quiet in Tallahassee. As you also, I'm sure know, we're going into a very, very busy election season. Redistricting is done. There are new lines for the House members in the state of Florida and new lines for other state senators. And of course, the entire Florida cabinet is on the ballot. Primary is in August, general election is in November. So it is fast approaching. And when they're in Tallahassee, they can't be campaigning. So I think once you see these special sessions get done, then it's full election mode. As much as the election kind of is a time for you to be on the sidelines, I'd also tell you it's a time to get engaged as well. If you have new ideas, new initiatives, if anything we need to push legislatively, or even appropriations that we need to be starting to push, I'm on the campaign trail. I'm meeting with these people that are running for office to represent you. That's a great time for me to also get their buy-in, to get people possibly to put this into what they're running for. If you get somebody to stand for it, you know, on the day they get elected, they'll be more inclined to file that legislation or help champion it once they're in Tallahassee. The next session will begin not until March of 2023. However, again, for those of you that don't know me, I think I do everything almost in sports metaphors. So think of it like the sports season starts in March, but there's preseason, spring training, whatever sport you want to look to for metaphors, that'll probably start in December. So committee weeks, December, January, February, session starts in March, concludes in May. So that's kind of where we are in the big picture of things. The last thing I'll say is because of redistricting, this will be a transformational election for the city of Boynton Beach and the election. You will have new members that represent you for the first time in 10 years, possibly in the House and in the Senate. So it's a good time for us to get engaged with any new issues you have. We will, much like many of you are new to the city of Boynton Beach, next session, we may have new members representing the city that have never represented the city in Tallahassee. And so it's a really good time to educate everybody on what's historically been good, but also what is our new agenda and what are new goals we have. And I know I dragged a little long, but with that, I'll pause and answer any questions you may have.
Thank you so much for that update. We appreciate you as always, and I'm looking forward to that appropriations, hopefully for our city. Let me first open the floor to questions and comments by members of the commission. Commissioner Hay?
Yes, Matt, it's good to see you again. Okay. Budget-wise, you spoke about the crime prevention, $525,000. In case that gets struck down by the governor, will that be resubmitted? Or is this the first time that's been submitted?
Yes, that's the first time, to my knowledge, that the city, and again, I've represented you guys for years, I do not recall filing that request before. Okay. And there is nothing that stops us from refiling it again.
Good. We want to make sure we do that. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Go ahead.
Thank you for coming. Great to meet you. I would love it if you could come back once the special session's over to talk about if there's any changes in property insurance. That's something that I'm personally very concerned about and want to keep an eye on.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Matt, could you talk about the process for the business damages? How would a business make that claim, and what evidence or would they have to show?
Again, I would much rather get that to you in writing rather than me trying to remember the explicit details of a very long bill in a very long session. But all I can tell you is it is expressly written out in the legislation as to, again, how many years a business must be in place, and not just what they have to do to show damages, but also what ordinances are eligible for a city. Again, certain budget-related ordinances you pass are not eligible, but other certain ones you do. I think even land development, I think, was removed, was exempted. So that's a great example of I can get you the bill language and from the staff. And again, it hasn't been signed by the governor yet as well either. But I would make sure your staff can kind of dive into it and also realize which ordinances, because a lot of I think it will also depend on how your own code is set up. You know, what sometimes hours of operation are classified in a different spot than, you know, in your code than in other places. And so it'd just be a good thing for your staff to educate themselves on.
All right, questions from staff?
Mr. Mayor, I was just going to say we can provide the commission an update on that and other legislation as they get signed by the governor.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Mr. Forrest.
Pleasure.
Moving on to the next item on the agenda, that would be 3B, proclaim the month of May 2022 as Mental Health Awareness and Trauma-Informed Care Month. The proclamation is to be received by Ms. Gerda Klein from the Boynton Beach Mental Health Committee. So let me read the proclamation and we'll come on down for the pictures. Whereas mental health is essential to everyone's overall health and well-being, and everyone experiences times of stress and struggles in their lives, and 1 in 4 adults and 1 in 5 youth ages 13 through 18 experiences serious mental illness. 60% of adults and 50% of youth do not receive the treatment necessary for their mental health needs due to limited or no knowledge of the need, barriers to care, or fear and shame. And whereas research recognizes that adverse childhood experiences, which include but are not limited to physical, emotional, and sexual abuse, physical and emotional neglect, household dysfunction, untreated mental illness, or incarceration of a household member, domestic violence, microaggressions, and separation or divorce involving household members are traumatic experiences that can have a profound effect on a child's developing brain and body and can result in poor physical and mental health during childhood and adulthood. And whereas we acknowledge the impact of racial trauma on our community, which refers to the stressful effects and emotional pain of one's direct and generational experience with racism and discrimination, and its negative impact on physical, mental, and socio-emotional health across their lifespan. And whereas the importance of attending to mental health has become more pronounced in the last 2 years due to COVID-19 and the resulting economic crisis, isolation, sickness, grief, job loss, food instability, and loss of routines have increased the need for mental health services. The need to protect people from COVID-19 has made it more challenging for people to access mental health services and harder for providers to deliver this care. And whereas the City of Boynton Beach recognizes the work of the Boynton Beach Mental Health Committee impacting awareness and education, access to services, and acceptance of the importance of mental health and well-being to a person's overall success, and supports the implementation of trauma-informed approaches throughout the systems of care. Now therefore, I, Typin Surga, Mayor of the City of Boynton Beach, Florida, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2022 as Mental Health Awareness and Trauma-Informed Healthcare. Commissioner Hay, would you like to join me? I know this organization is near and dear to your heart. Hi, everybody.
I have my remarks to make.
Guys, come on, run, so we can see you. Get in the picture, get in the picture. Get in the picture. Come on.
Everybody be seen. Thank
Thank you. Thank you so much. Absolutely.
Good evening. My name is Gerda Klein, and I'm the founder of the Boynton Beach Mental Health Committee. And on behalf of this committee, I'm proud to accept this proclamation and thank Mayor Penserga for the city's declaration that May is Mental Health Awareness and Trauma-Informed Care Month. We also express deep appreciation for the city's continued support of mental health education and awareness in our community. I recognize and thank our committee members and community partners who traditionally stand with us behind me for this presentation, wearing green, the national color of mental health. This day is a very special one because it's the first time in 2 years that we have been able to gather in this room and accept our proclamation in person. So we must acknowledge the tremendous struggles and losses that we have all experienced in those 2 years. The isolation and fear, the inability to reach out and support each other with comfort and strength. That is why our committee decided last December that May of 2022, for the benefit of our collective mental health, would be a good time to gather with compassion and love to acknowledge this dark period and begin the healing together. The City of Boynton Beach is partnering with us for the Remembering and Healing Together event that will take place right next door at Centennial Park and Amphitheater, Sunday, May 15, from 1 to 5 p.m. I extend warmest thanks to Eleanor Crucell and her amazing marketing team and the many wonderful city staff that we have come to know who have been and continue to be so helpful in putting this day together, and for the fine support we have received from the City Commission and Mayor. I want to recognize our event chair, Gloria Goolsby. You all left me. You all left. You went away.
Oh, that's you.
Well, she was standing here.
She is, Gerda.
And the chair of the committee, Commissioner Woodrow Hay, who was down here, yes, since 2014, and all our members for their support to make this event possible. We ask you all to think of May 15 as a day to reflect as you post a loving message to loved ones lost to COVID on the memorial tree as you enter the park. The afternoon will begin with an invocation presented by an interfaith multicultural group of clergy representing the rich cultural heritage of our community. It is also a day of new beginnings for many. Stop at the vendor tables and gather helpful information about mental health for you and your family. And pick up a beautiful Remembering and Healing Together t-shirt with our butterfly theme and commemorative ad book. A stop at the tent of Total Body and Fitness with Rosa exercise demonstration might motivate you to consider exercise as part of your self-care plan on your healing journey. Or you may pick up a brush and start painting and healing together. Feel the beat of the drum circle and be inspired by our mental health speaker's story and her helpful healing strategies. And won't we all be happy to see Debbie and Wally Majors with Boone and Cassidy. There will be food and activities for kids. Bring your favorite lawn chair and enjoy the speakers and entertainment with Commissioner Woodrow Hay as MC, keeping us on schedule through the day. Traditionally, we've always had the water tower lit up green for a few days during May because it is Get Your Green On month. And the county campaign gets bigger every year. The kickoff took place last Friday on Facebook Live in recognition of this event, and many events are scheduled through the month, all over the county. We are pleased that the city is going to have the water tower glow green for many more days this month, and I got an email just before I came down here, and it will be green at 9:30 this evening, so be sure you watch out for that. You know, it's important to note that there has been a changing landscape around mental health since the pandemic. There is new increased attention given to emotional and mental well-being. The fact that everyone was feeling down at some point or other helped destigmatize the conversation around mental health and break down stereotypes. It's really okay not to feel okay. People have been talking more about their mental health, and that's a good thing. At the same time, the COVID has generated a whole new layer of mental health challenges through physical distancing, bereavement, uncertainty, unemployment, and fear. Clearly, we must somehow still make space for holding the pain that still is, while also seeking the comfort, the hope, and the support that will help guide us on our healing journey. Let us work on that together with family, friends, and community in our beautiful park on May 15. Thank you.
Commissioner, did you want to say a few words?
I just wanted to let the committee know that our new interim city manager has agreed to meet with us, and I will be sending that message out as to the date and time, unless you have it at your fingertips. I do not either, but we did talk today about it, so be prepared. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Moving on to item 3C, proclaim the month of May 2022 as National Historic Preservation Month. The proclamation is to be received by Barbara Reddy, Chair of the Historic Resources Preservation Board. The proclamation reads, whereas historic preservation is an effective tool for promoting sustainable development, revitalizing neighborhoods, fostering local pride, promoting tourism, and maintaining community character. Whereas it is important to acknowledge and celebrate the benefit of history, architecture, archaeology to our lives, and the contributions made by dedicated individuals in helping to preserve the tangible aspects of the heritage that has shaped the city. Whereas historic preservation can be the center of community discussion, uniting residents behind an important cause. Whereas the city of Boynton Beach conducted its first comprehensive survey of historic properties in 1996, thereby laying the groundwork for recording historic properties with the state of Florida's Division of Historical Resources database, and ultimately establishing the Historic Preservation Program in 2011. Whereas, with the establishment of a complete historic preservation program, the city of Boynton Beach in 2012 achieved certified local government status in accordance with requirements of the state of Florida's Division of Historical Resources, Bureau of Historic Preservation, and whereas the city of Boynton Beach continues to demonstrate its commitment to preservation, in part with the establishment and maintenance of a local registry of historic sites, establishment of heritage trails in the downtown area, as well as along Martin King Jr. Boulevard, and integration of historic elements into the town square redevelopment project, including the 1913 Boynton School and recently rehabilitated 1927 Boynton High School. Now therefore I, Ty Pensurga, Mayor of the City of Boynton Beach, Florida, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2022 as National Historic Preservation Month.
Barbara Reedy. I'm Chair of the City's Historic Resources Preservation Board. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Thank you very much for this lovely proclamation tonight. As we embark on this next 3-year chapter of our city's history, we should remember that we stand on the shoulders of the people who have come before us, people who have created the rich tapestry of the story of life in Boynton Beach. Just as a tapestry is comprised of threads of many colors, It has taken the many people, places, and stories from all segments of Boynton, woven together to bring us to who we are today. In our rush to create everything shiny and new, care should be taken that we do not forget who we are and unravel too much of the beautiful tapestry of what Boynton Beach was and is. According to a recent University of Florida study, historic preservation is a proven economic driver. Preserving the pieces of our history is not only ecologically smart, it can create community pride, improve property values, and increase visitor interest. We need only look to our cities in the neighboring area to see how historic preservation has improved and benefited them. As you begin work on your strategic plan, I would urge you to remember to make what you weave into our tapestry as meaningful as what came before you, and include more appreciation for what little is left of the historic pieces of Boynton Beach. Change just for change's sake is not always good. Thank you very much for reminding everyone of the importance of historic preservation. Thank you.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda, 3D, announcement by John Durgan, Economic Development Manager, regarding Turn the Tables Career and Internship Expo on May 11th, 2022. John?
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. John Durgan, Economic Development Manager. The city, in partnership with Path to College and CareerSource Palm Beach County, will be hosting the Turn the Tables Career and Internship Expo next Wednesday, May 11th from 2:30 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. at our Arts and Cultural Center, which is located at 125 East Ocean Avenue on the second floor auditorium right here in downtown Boynton Beach. This expo is geared towards high school students interested in both paid and unpaid internship opportunities and potential entry-level positions in a variety of industries. The goal is to connect students to internships that will provide hands-on experience, help build relationships and rapport with future employers, and to learn about the industries of the future. This expo will also benefit employers, by building a talent pipeline of future employees. We believe that making an investment in our students at an early age will benefit our employers in the future to adapt to labor shortages and hiring difficulties while creating a skilled workforce. For more information and to register for the expo as a student and an employer, you can visit the city's website at www.boynton-beach.org/internship-fair, or you can call me, John Durgan, at 561-742-6014. And we do have some flyers in the back for those who may be interested. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any questions from the members of the commission? All right, go ahead.
Do we have any detail, just while we're here at the meeting, regarding which professions that would include?
Yeah, so last time I checked with CareerSource, who's keeping track of the registration, we have around 14 employers currently listed, and those range from anywhere from logistics, hospitality. We do have one medical. We have a lot of universities who will be in attendance, and government as well. And I believe that's it so far as the type of industries. Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to public audience, but before we begin public audience for non-agenda items, this is just a reminder that individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes per meeting. Please also take note that public audience period is not a Q&A. Staff and members of the commission will take notes of the items presented during this time, and we will respond to them after this meeting has concluded. For those of you joining us virtually and wish to speak, please keep your digital hands raised throughout the duration of in-person public comments. After the in-person public comments have concluded, we will no longer accept virtual participants. I will also inform the virtual speakers when you have 30 seconds remaining on the clock. We'll proceed first with those in person. Please form a line behind the 2 podiums on both sides of the chamber. We'll alternate back and forth, and don't forget to state your name and address for the record. Let me begin the timer.
David Katz, 67 Midwood Lane. When Ms. Cruz voted to terminate the city manager, she mentioned that that staff was too friendly with developers. These are professional people, and what they do is they meet with developers, their staff, their representatives, and inform them of the code and ordinances of the city. They're not friendly, they do business with them. It's the commission that's friendly with developers and cozy with them, like yourselves. You're the ones who grant exceptions. You're the ones who grant variances. Ms. Cruz, you took in close to $13,000 during your campaign from developers and their representatives. And the mayor took in a little bit over $24,000 from developers and representatives. So I don't think staff's cozy with them. I think you guys are. And you really shouldn't throw darts at them. You should use them as a resource. They're professionals. When Ms. Kelly was appointed, the mayor said we were making history. Well, you blew it again, Mayor. You don't know our history of Boynton Beach, do you? There's somebody named Arlene Weiner. She served on the commission with somebody named Sam DeLong, who was Joe DeLong's daughter, 2 women. That's over 30 years ago, but you weren't here. Arlene Weiner, as a commissioner, served with Lynn Matson, another woman. I also was mayor with her. And who else did Arlene Weiner serve with on the commission? A woman named Lillian Artis, Woodrow Hayes' sister. So that's how much you know about Boynton Beach. You don't really know very much, do you? And just to let everybody know here, the day after they fired the city manager, that man moved into the city manager's office. I don't know why you need to have that office. You think the employees are happy? Well, you're in a netherland if you think the employees are happy about what you're doing. Maybe you can explain to everybody here why you need to have the city manager's office, why you're meeting up there with members of a union in closed door meetings, why you're meeting with other city commissioners up there in a closed door meeting. You're in violation of the Sunshine Law, and you're not allowed to direct staff. That's a violation of the charter. You changed the locks, you told staff to change the locks, and you shouldn't be doing that. So have a nice day.
Good afternoon. Mike McCray, 806 Northwest 4th Street, Boynton Beach, Florida. At the last meeting, I did not stand before you all after serving 13 years in the city and said to the newly elected officials, congratulations. Also, as I say congratulations, I want to ask you all that you make sure that you get a copy of the charter for the city of Boynton. Make sure you get ethics training. Not only is the ethics in Palm Beach County watching you, but also the ethics in the state of Florida. They are watching you all. Your meetings are being televised. A lot of things you all are doing is being broken. I'd like to say to the interim city manager, sir, congratulations. At the last meeting, Mayor, you made the statement. I guess you was happy and all hyped up, but you said, congratulations, you are our new city manager. Sir, you are only the interim city manager. He told me that he was going to correct that tonight. I did not hear it, so I do it myself. Now to the mayor. Mayor, I had this opportunity to serve with you for 3 years. Sir, it was a pleasure to serve with you for those 3 years. Sir, I don't know. After those 3 years, what has happened to you and your ego. But sir, I'm going to tell you tonight, my parents always told me, be careful of the people you step on the way up, sir. You need them on the way down. Thank you.
Cindy Falco Di Corrado. I just want to read a little bit of the Constitution. Since I was told that only 4 hours a year you're taught the Constitution, and each one of you have sworn oaths of office to uphold the Constitution of the United States of Florida and the Florida Constitution, to protect it, which is our protection from the government encroaching on our rights. So I was just going to read one, and I think I'll start reading them every time I come, just so that even the public can start to hear that we have a Constitution, which it doesn't give us our rights. God gives us our rights, but this is to keep the government from encroaching on those rights. I'm going to start with Amendment number 1. It says, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or of the right of the people to peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. And that's why it's very important, and I'm glad that you still allow public input, because this is a public meeting and we are your bosses, whether you feel that way or not. You do work for the people, and each and every one of you are a public servant. Please don't forget that. We're not here to serve you. You're here to serve us. Thank you.
Good evening, Susan Oyer, 140 Southeast 27th Way. I brought this up several months ago that we were missing our mayor pictures. I see you've put them up, but yet you've grossly distorted the pictures. My dad is at the top one on the very right on the first row, and that's not what he looked like. So as former Mayor Grant said, you probably should have left them in their original frames and left the original pictures, because you have grossly distorted a lot of these pictures. You've warped them to fit the sizing of the frame, and I think that's wrong, and I think you need to go back and relook at it. And these are the men and couple women who actually made this city the third largest city in the county, and the great city that we are. And we are one of the old original cities, and this is appalling that you would do this to our former mayors, who I've got to say, I'm kind of on board with everyone else who's spoken tonight, but they leave you away hanging behind in their dust, with the exception of former Mayor Hay, who is a respectable man that I think, whether you agree with him or not, people respect him. I got to say, what's going on lately is not a respectful situation. And I certainly hope you do something about these mayor pictures very shortly and get this resolved, because that's embarrassing to our entire city that you have done this to our former great leaders. And they were greater than you all will ever be. I've got to say that, excluding Commissioner Hay, who was a great mayor. My second thing is, I told you all via email, and Commissioner Hay and Mayor Pensurga saw this email, when I quit the Arts Board, about all the problems on the Arts Board, and with Cortland McGuire, the Arts Board Chair, and the Vice Chair, Marcia Levine. They regularly violated the Sunshine Law and the Code of Ethics. I brought it up. I sent 2 different emails, one to the mayor and one to the whole commission. You all are aware. And then you turn around and you put Cortland on the P&D board. This is a man who regularly violates Sunshine Law, and you did this, and you put him on the most important board in this city, the quasi-judicial board that has so much impact, and he is very likely going to do the same thing. I'm not accusing him of having done anything currently. I'm saying he tried to drag me in the middle of this nonsense on Arts Board. That was a wrong choice. I don't know which one of you put him on the Arts Board, or I'm sorry, P&D board, but you really need to stop and take a look at this. And maybe you want to go back and read my letter that I sent to the commission about why I quit the Arts Board. I even posted some of it on Facebook when he was running for office, so that the public would know what he has done wrong. And please do something about this. This is your most important board, and you put a man on there who the city attorney had to have multiple trainings to tell him to stop doing this, and explain what Sunshine Law and Code of Ethics training is. Thank you.
Welcome, commissioners.
Mike,
Herb Suss,
could you bring the mic a little closer, sir?
Herb Suss, 1711 Woodford, Boynton Beach. Woody, you were a great former mayor and one of the best commissioners we ever had. And thank you for voting to keep Lori. The people up here that ran before that announced they're going to get rid of her. Commissioner Cruz, I voted for you, but I have to say I'm sorry. I got a lot of votes from my community for you, worked hard for you. I called you last Friday. When am I going to get a call back? The mayor up there never returned phone calls. I hope you're different. I'll give you a shot. The biggest thing tonight, let's keep our police. let's keep our police. Because once we get rid of our police, which will be farmed out to Glades, the sheriff comes in, what's next? The fire department? I want the city of Boynton Beach, we're independent. My community wants it. There are a lot of people out there that want it. Okay? What's next? The fire department? This is an independent city. I don't want Palm Beach County in here. I don't want the sheriff. We got our officers. Mayor, why the heck are you using the former city manager's office? You have no right. No right. What is it good for your ego? As a former speaker said, don't do that. Don't do that. And I think it's against the law. It might be. And if it isn't, I'll stand corrected. I further say that this commission and prior commissions better bone up. I've been down at every meeting. I have done a lot for the city. I was on with the police. I was with the fire department as a first responder. I helped get the original library built before this beautiful building was done. I've done a lot for the city and I'll keep doing it. I haven't been down here in a long time. Well, maybe things are going to change. I see a lot of good people here that I do remember. But so far, this commission, you voted to get rid of a, why? Why? And now you go into an office? Sacrilegious. And Miss Cruz, Commissioner Cruz, for the title. I phoned you last Friday. When am I going to get a call back? If this is what it's all about, my goodness, my goodness. Woody, thank God that you're here. Thank God that you're here, Woody. Thank God.
All right, next speaker, please approach the podium. Begin when
Ray
you're
White.
ready. Go ahead. Oh, go ahead.
Ray Whiteley, 239 Northeast 12th Avenue. National Day of Prayer and Invitation to Prayer. I'm serving in a capacity with Boynton Beach Coalition of Clergy. May 5th is National Day of Prayer, and we will be having a prayer at the amphitheater at 10 a.m. and at 5:30 p.m. 10 a.m. so that we could bring our city workers, city staff, just so that pastors from Faith in Florida organization, Boynton Beach Coalition of Clergy, and St. John Missionary Baptist Church, and other community faith leaders will be there just to pray with the community and just making sure that we know that it's a national day of prayer. And at 5:30, we'll be back there to pray with members from the community who may be coming off of work. So we want to make sure that you have an opportunity to come, regardless of your faith. This isn't a specific faith thing. It's a multi-faith thing. So you could come out and just begin the reform and reconciliation through prayer. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Christy Ward, 1518 North Seacrest Boulevard, Boynton Beach, Florida. I stand as a representative of the Coalition of Clergy as well as Faith in Florida. Just bringing before you again because I don't ever want this to leave you, but to stay in your ear and keeps ringing in your ear as the people are continuing to speak that we do not want a merger with the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office. I say that, and I have been born and raised in Boynton Beach, Florida. I remember Boynton Beach when Seacrest was just 2 lanes. I remember all the things growing up and the goodness in the city of Boynton Beach. And if you weren't born and raised in the city of Boynton Beach, you really can't go for things like we know how it was and how it used to be. But I am going to say, please do not bring in this merger. We have a good structure right here. We have maybe some good ones, we may have some bad ones, but instead of just demolishing and getting rid of everything where we lose power, to please just go ahead and reform and not replace. Reform, not replace. We got a good bone structure here. Let's go ahead and gut out whatever needs to be gutted, and let's clean up and build from there. And once you get on one accord with your people, if you start listening and hearing us, the people will back you. But when you don't listen, we cannot back what we know is mess. So with that being said, think about it, and anything that you do, know that God sees it, even if we don't see it.
All right, good evening, Commissioner. Erwin Sines, 2405 Quantum Boulevard. Just a couple of things I want to bring up. One was we had there was a community meeting last night that was hosted. Appreciate those folks that came out. One of the comments that came out in the community meeting that I just wanted to stress and just put on record was there was some community that was saying that they've seen sheriffs in certain parts of the community. Not sure if they're supposed to be there or not, but concerns about them starting to posture themselves as they're already here. Who would we go to report things like that, just in case, to make sure that jurisdictions or whatever isn't being overstepped? Who would we? That's one question. I got some others, but who would we go to? Or you want me to go through the rest of my stuff?
Just go through there.
Okay. Second was, piggybacking off of that, is there are a lot of questions, confusion about what the actual process is going to be for bringing in or whatever that police service and picking up police service, how that's going to go. So just some clarity around, is that going to be a vote? Is there, how community is going to be heard when it comes to that decision? Just the overall process seems confusing, and just, community just wants some transparency around that. Now just to some other local business, we need like a light assessment of like the northwest side of 10th, which is obviously a residential area, one around like the basketball court. There are lights already there, but some of them are like out or really dim. And so we need someone to go. I mean, money was obviously spent to put that there, so we just want them to be clear. And also, when I say an assessment, like there are other areas around there that are just really dark at night. So I don't know who would have to go walking around just to see, because the structures are there, but they're either really dim or off. So just making sure that they're on. That's another concern I was in community. So I don't know who I'll go to for that. And then lastly, is there any updates on just the internal affairs investigation concerning Sam Davis, the third, rest in peace, and of course, peace and healing to the community on that. If y'all have any updates on that. All right, thank you.
Go ahead.
Gregory Hartman, 1083 Southwest 25th Place. Good evening, esteemed commission. I'm here to give a comment on the proposed ordinance later for the voting boundaries. I don't know if this was fully discussed in front of the commission as seated. I believe it was discussed with the previous commission. And I think that it needs a second review in front of the commission as seated and in front of the community. I believe option one was the choice, and I'm not sure if that's the best representation for the community. I personally believe option 2 or 3 would give the community better representation in City Hall. Mostly this would move Sky Lake into District 1. I believe they have more in common with Gulfview Harbor, Hunters Run, Treasure Island across the street than they do with the east side of town. I also think it's taking away a bit of a voting block from the east side of town. I want to make sure each side can be evenly represented. I think the Stanley Weaver Canal makes a natural north-south border for our commission districts as is. I believe this would bring more balance to the city. It would help the commission be better represented by each side of town and make sure the sides of towns that have similar interests can be together, because the districts are a representation of the different cultures and diversity within our community. So having communities that are more like-minded and more geographically together makes more sense than having ones that are across town, maybe not so like-minded and also not geographically in the same area. I'd ask the commission to reconsider that as it's currently seated, and please give a strong consideration to option 2 and 3 on those maps. Thank you.
Good evening. Sheila Gaines, 2500 Quantum Lakes Drive. The pandemic did a number on all of us. It forced us to learn ourselves. It forced us to learn our passions and create new business ventures or hobbies. Rest in peace to young Stanley. I am the executive director of a counseling center by the name of Trinity Counseling Centers. And we focus on removing the stigma in the Black and Brown communities when it pertains to mental health awareness. And I commend the Boynton Beach Mental Health Committee for what they're doing for mental health awareness. This is taxing on our mental health because we are heard. However, because of how it is set, and I understand we're only heard and there's no feedback because we can't, and I get it. So I'm gonna employ everyone on the dais. We meet for something called casual conversations on Thursdays in Sarah Sims Park at 5:30 on the bleachers. Not only do we talk about the issues that are happening in Boynton Beach, we talk about the issues that are happening in our lives. Within this pandemic, the suicide rate for young girls went up 50%, and nobody's talking about it. So at Trinity Counseling Centers, we figured we are wherever you are. We're gonna go sit on the bleachers. We're gonna talk with either a licensed therapist, a group facilitator, or a primary therapist to provide that healthcare access to people who may not be able to afford it. I think that it'll be a great opportunity for you guys to come out so that we can have a casual conversation instead of us talking to you and there's no rebuttal back. And I understand why. I'm not beating you guys up. Also, in my last 46 seconds, I outed the sitting interim city manager at the last meeting, and I told him I've never seen you a day of my life. And something stood out to me, whereas we had a community meeting yesterday on not wanting PPSO to come into Boynton Beach. And James came over to me and literally like beeline towards me and said, "You're right. You haven't seen me. I'm gonna make it better." And it resonated with me. So I respect you for that. I'm the type of person that if you're not doing great, I'm gonna tell you in public. And if you are doing great, I'm gonna tell you in public. So casual conversations on Thursdays at 5:30 at Sarah Sims Park. Thank you.
Bishop Bernard Wright, CEO of Bernard Wright Ministries, Real Talk Radio and Real Talk Marketing Consultant. I sit on the Historic Resource Preservation Board and on the Student Advisory Council at Ponciana. But I sit and stand tonight as a resident of Boynton Beach, 69 years, with my great-grandfather having built the first street, church, and school. And I want to say that, you all really need to know about the history and culture of Boynton, and let's stay on top of that. But as you began, if you begin right, you could possibly know 9 out of 10 end right. You begin wrong, except you correct it in between, you're going to end wrong. We have begun wrong, first off. Ty, you've gone on and you violated the charter and given direction to the employees, taking over the city manager's office. We all understand these things and having meetings in there that you should not be having. That's starting wrong. And right now, I don't have nothing against you. I don't hold grudges, things of that nature. Believe me, I want to see better change for the better for the people in the city. And man, this is really too confusing, and my spirit is really twisted. We want to talk about, PBSO coming in here, justice. What we need right now is for Stanley Davis III, and we can't leave focus on that because that's injustice. What you just did is injustice. What we're doing now, having these city secret meetings, are unjust, not fair to the people at all. What we see is scheming, conniving, And this is what we're trying to get rid of. We see a new commission coming in here, has come in here. And man, I'm telling you, it has started off real wrong, except for the firing of the city manager. Thank you, Mr. Turkin. God bless you. I did represent you last night, and I thank you for that. And let me tell you something. No one has ever done what you've done. No one has ever in the history done what you just did and trying to change and have an office like you're a king. That's a bully that is gangsterish, and you're not a gangster. But you got those that behind you who are, and those are the ones that are controlling you because it's the money that got you in there, the power that be. You have no power, but the real power is in us. You better believe this. This is really be explosive. Now, I'd like to see it go on the ballot, you understand, referendum, and I would really like to see that because we really have some work we can do, and we're going to do it just like Rivera did it, because every citizen in this city has a constitutional right. That's right. They have something to say about something of such grave and a magnitude of merging our police department. It's worse as it is now. It would be worse. We know this from statistics. We're talking about figures, truth, and facts. Ain't no opinions about this, baby. We on the right road, but yet someone is taking us wrong. And you right now is CEO. And you, city manager, we expecting the best from you. And I thank you, my man. I love your spirit. To God be the glory. So we're going to keep it moving. But let me tell you something, no merging. And let's stop what you're doing. Give the city manager what it was designed for, his office back. Let's jump back. And when you're wrong, man, stand up and face it and do the right thing. God bless you all. Have a great day. And guess what? We're going to see justice in this city. We're going to stop. Not going to stop. We're not going to stop. My spirit's so twisted. I'm serious. To God be glory. I'm ready to stop talking. I'm ready to sit down. Jump up.
Next speaker.
Good evening. My name is Gloria Goldsby, 327 Boynton Bay Circle, Boynton Beach, Florida.
Excuse me, would you mind just moving closer to the mic so we can hear you a little bit better?
I first want to say Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers of the world. And second, I want to address Commissioner Cruz. I was really bothered by the fact that you brought attention when Commissioner Kelly was being appointed, that she is a mother, a working mother. Many of us out here are working mothers with families. I raised twins myself and worked. There was a day when I first went back to work after my twins were born that my babysitter got sick, and I personally took my children to work with me. That was in 1981. I don't think that anyone should be disciplined, or whatever word you want to use. I'm a little nervous because of, or awarded, because we only get awarded one time, and that's from our Lord and Savior. If we weren't built to do it, God wouldn't have given us that privilege to be mothers. And He wouldn't have blessed us to work, to do a double job. When we work, our bosses, they award us for our work. We don't need you to out anyone for what they said, about being a mother and working. There are men who raise children and work. So we should, as women, as females, I don't feel like we should be shining for that reason. Okay, so when you say that, please take heed that we're all equal when it comes to raising our children. It takes a village.
Mr. Graham, begin when you're ready.
Thank you. Bryce Graham, Second Vice President, National Network, Central Florida Chapter. I'm watching what's going on here in Boynton Beach. And when I told you that the spotlight was on, the searchlight, matter of fact, I meant that. And I see the chess moves that are being made while other people are in Candyland. Okay? Putting people in certain positions to do certain things and to push certain agendas. Yeah, I see it. I see the sabotage that is going on in this city, which is unacceptable. Now, I've gotten too caught up within the politics of Boynton Beach, but there's some serious stuff that needs to be addressed here in Boynton Beach. Yeah, I know we made demands for the city manager to be removed, but that's not enough. I know the police chief resigned because he had other things going on in his life that he did not take into consideration until 5 months later, 4 months later. And after 128 days after Stanley Davis III was killed in Boynton Beach, there is still injustice. Let's talk about fine Mark Sohn. But you all don't want to do it because of an investigation. Damn an investigation. Fire him. Fire him. And if you are wrong, take the brunt of the lawsuits and deal with it like this community is dealing with pain and suffering. They are telling you, clear as day, this community does not want PBSO in here. You hear the cries. So while you're scrambling, taking money and bargains, don't forget the people, because the people will speak here in Boynton Beach.
Next speaker, please approach the podium. One second, let's make sure the mic's on.
Pernell Davis. I know y'all been getting beat up, but I definitely appreciate the move that you guys made last commission meeting. I mean, y'all did have the boldness of Esther, and you can see the backlash that's what's coming. But for our city to move forward, I think we need to. I mean, I know this older gentleman, and there's been a couple older gentlemen saying stuff, but traditionally, it hasn't went well for our community. So when we try to keep tradition, that's telling us that you want to keep us oppressed. So when we have a group of people that's going to stand with us and be bold enough to hear what we're saying and to hear our cries and to figure out a way to try to help us, to meet us at our needs, we definitely appreciate that. So like I said, the tradition hasn't been good for us. And hopefully that was the first step in us actually making progress in understanding that we do have power to do stuff. Traditionally, stuff don't go how we want it to go, and traditionally, we don't use the power that we have, but now we're going to use that power. So if we're up here and we don't understand the power that we have, then what's the point of being up here? Because as you can see, the community, well, our community, I can't speak for the rest of the districts, our community appreciated what happened because a lot of people in our community was oppressed by that person. Maybe she didn't do it right there, right on them, but somewhere down the line, our people was oppressed. So if the other people are upset, then just let them be upset, because shit, we've been upset as long as Boynton been here. So if y'all had a week to be upset, stay upset. You got a couple more weeks. Quite frankly, we appreciate what y'all did. And quite frankly, we're going to keep coming to y'all because we're going to keep needing people that's going to come through. So please continue what you did. Don't just throw us a bone and that's it. Because if you do that, then we're going to be there too. Like I said, we got more business to take care of. We got Mark Sohn, and we need to know some timelines and when some stuff gonna happen. Because if you ask me, it ain't take this long. He should be fired tomorrow. Y'all want to have another meeting about that? This room being used tomorrow, clerk? Well, let's have a meeting tomorrow. His ass need to be out of here. But like I said, we appreciate what y'all did. But the new city manager or interim city manager, it's time for his ass to go. We starting to clean house. We'll start with him, and then we might just work with Ms. Snow. All right, thank you.
Next speaker.
Wesley Schuler, 618 Northwest 2nd Street.
Could you bring the mic closer?
Wesley Schuler, 618 Northwest 2nd Street. I'm just kind of puzzled that we having these little secret meetings and we doing what we want to do behind closed doors. If that's the case, I think we need an investigation. One of y'all need to throw an investigation out there to find out what's going on. Because Ty, if you is doing what you doing behind them closed doors, it's gonna come behind the light and see. Because at the end of the day, this can't be going on. It's time to get this police officer out of here. He gotta go. I don't know why we dragging our butt, but Mr. Hay, if you want to clean and get your soul right with this situation, I think you need to throw it out there that you go ahead and get rid of him. Because this will put you on the spotlight. Because at the end of the day, this is taking way too long. Delray, when they killed that Miller boy in Delray, it ain't take this long. Officer Sims, it was the assistant chief. He got rid of him with no hesitation because he didn't want the blood on his hand, but from the community. I don't know what it's gonna take, but why we gotta keep going down this road? This road ain't gonna lead nowhere. That's why you got Woolbright and Seacrest full of people dead. Unnecessary people that's laying in the grave right now. But this can't be going on. We gotta stop this. We tired. Time is running out. Time is running out. And when that ship sank, it's gonna be like the Titanic. You better get a hold.
Shannon Thompson, 800 North Federal Highway. A few of my comments is what transpired last night at that community meeting. And I had to go back and play some of the people's live audio in response to some of the things, Woodrow Hay, that you said. Some of the things didn't sit too well with me. And one of the things was when the young lady got up and she said to you, well, how can we trust that you're going to lead us with the right direction this time if you stood before the mother in her son's service and said, we can count on you? And your response that really bothered me last night, and I had to sit there and compose myself as a young lady and as a mother, you told her, well, what you should have said to us was that we have your vote if we're doing for you to do the right thing. So you were implying that us being united, taking a stance, coming here, fighting for a change and getting Lori out was not the right thing. And I have a problem with that. As we all, the community, have witnessed Lori being in a position for over decades with her showing that she's incompetent of rendering disciplinary actions to insubordinate staff members, although there's been multiple recommendations. She has shown that. Commissioners, you guys weren't there, But he did kept referencing in the meeting that you all are young and implying that you guys, in a sense, kind of lack knowledge. So you guys should be attending these workshops. And I guess you guys just had a workshop Saturday as well. I just wanted to point out, Woodrow Hay, I'm going to state my opinion, because this is my opinion. Some of it is factual. You have sat here and you have been on this desk for more than one term. You have more experience than them, yet you attend these workshops. I don't see what benefit it's doing. You still lack knowledge. You lack understanding. You lack leadership. You lack ethics. You lack everything. And you was referencing that they are young, yet you're old in age and you still lack wisdom. You also said that if we do a change, there will be a rush and we need to expedite my son's case. I stand before you to let you know, we don't need a rush. We need a thorough investigation, which FSP failed to give us, which is why we had to call in Department of Justice.
Thank you.
You're lucky my time up because I had a whole thing to read to you.
Are there any other in-person speakers? Please approach the podium now. This is the last call for in-person speakers. Oh, no, go ahead. I'm a little shy.
Hello.
Don't forget to state your name and address for the record.
Okay, Kayla Franklin, 800 Federal Highway. I'm just following up my sister because I got a problem with you too, Woodrow Hayes. So bear with me. All right, so as the mother, she don't need a Russian investigation. What she needs is a thorough investigation for charges to Mark's Song. As we witnessed, FHP took over the investigation and took their time and still did a poor job. Leaving it in Boynton's hands, which we know Mark's Song broke a policy. Not once, not twice, but multiple times, which y'all all seen, which Lori saw and failed to reprimand him as she stated. Lori was here for 20 years. Mark was here for 20 years. Mark killed 3 people. He wasn't reprimanded for, he killed 2 people prior to my nephew. He wasn't reprimanded for it. Nothing. Desk duty, nothing. He still was an officer. So if she didn't see nothing wrong with the first 2 deaths that he caused, she wasn't gonna find nothing wrong with him killing my nephew. And that's why she had to go. And that's why you need to go, Woodrow Hayes, because like everybody said, you stood up in a funeral acting like you had our back and you was gonna be there for us when we didn't even ask you to come there, first of all. We didn't ask you to be on the panel. We didn't ask you for your voice. We didn't ask you for nothing. And you sat here last week and went against everybody else when you said we had your vote. But yeah, you suck.
All right. Funny name like some people do.
Hi, Ernest McNolly, 710 Northeast 7th Street, Unit 407, Boynton Beach, Harbor Hall Inlet Club 1, right next to Harbor Hall Inlet Club 2. 2 crime scenes that I witness every day, child endangerment, drugs. And this city number 2 district won't even come over there. And this some city manager, police, fire chief won't even come over when the floods and it's sparking and there's propane and danger. No, he sits up in the park in his car in the flood, taking pictures of the flood. That's what he did during Friday, during a flood. Take pictures of the clogged drain for 20 years in that park. Why don't you order the drain cleaned out? Who are you putting in these positions, really? Really? Check out people's background. Are you kidding me? Look at the guy that you gave the contract to the concession. And look at this city lawyer. You got a smirk on your face, right? Look what your partner did, who in that dirty deal with that concession, look at the background of who you helped get the contract. Really? A prostitute, a pimp, and a felon. And you don't think your law firm needs to go? You know, do me a favor. Tonight, would you at least take a vote to get rid of this whatever this firm is that's been destroying this city for 30 or more years? How many more lawsuits? Everybody I talk to is filing lawsuits, attorney bar complaints. How much more can they take in this rotten Fort Lauderdale law firm? Why don't you get some local people? Everybody you bring in here is from everybody everywhere else. Look at the city manager. Look at everybody. Where are you from? I'm all over there. Oh, you can't find anybody who lives here? Even if they live at home with 20 people, I'd rather have them. Really? And then what do? You start typecasting people. Oh, look how nasty they are. You guys are nasty. You don't return phone calls. You're a bunch of corrupt people. Look what you're doing up in that office up there, right? Where do you have a mayor with a phony name on his picture? Really, Mayor? Why don't you give your name? I never heard of that. I never heard of a full-time teacher Monday to Friday up in Riviera Beach teaching biology, and supposedly you're running a city. Where are you? You're up there full-time because Kat's got you a job. All corrupt. You're all corrupt. Even the new people, you're all corrupt. You're all up in that meeting with the thing with the sheriff and with the city manager's office. You don't think nobody knows? Even your interim city manager's wondering why he doesn't have an office. Where do you ever see a city manager without an office? And the mayor never had one here. He had it in the post office box over there. The last mayor. I'm out of time. Can I get some extra time? At least I gave my real name, Mayor. Why don't you give yours?
Next speaker, please approach the podium and begin when you're ready, sir.
Good evening.
Good
John
evening.
Dames, Post Office Box 713, Boynton Beach, Florida. First of all, I just want to give this commission a little history about this city and about the Boynton Beach Police Department. And I want y'all to understand, right? But this city has been divided with the police department for a long time. But I'm gonna give you a little history. In 1989, right? This city, the Boynton Beach Police Department, right? There were 3 police officers that shot a young lady in our city 11 times. She was shot 11 times, right? By the grace of God, she didn't die. Her father was a city of Boynton employee for 35 years, all right? 35 years. He was a city employee, okay? And so what happened, right? She survived, okay? And if she walk in here today, y'all wouldn't even know who she is. She doesn't have a scratch on her because of his grace is sufficient, okay? And I'm gonna let you know something, right? She got an attorney, sued this city. You're common and known for that. This was in 89. And she won in the lower courts. The jury found the city of Boynton Beach liable. She was awarded $1.1 million in 89. But guess what? They appealed it. It went up to a higher court and the Jim Crow laws kicked in then. Okay? And it was thrown out. That lady took 11 bullets and did not receive a dime. And guess what? And that's when you start seeing this city really get divided, okay? Because I can tell you, the police officers at that time were lured, right, and tricked over the Galaxy Elementary, and they were shot at, okay? They were shot at. So what happened, right, is they started riding 2 and 3D in this little small city right here, Boynton. So I'm just letting y'all and giving y'all a little history of what we've been through for years. And if you think that the sheriff gonna come in and pick up where some of them left off, right? Get ready.
All right, seeing no other in-person speakers, we're going to close in-person public comments. We're going to go to virtual. Mr. McNally, can you tell us how many people are or have their hands up?
Mayor Pensurga, we have 2 people with hands up, and right now I will unmute Lawrence Schramko.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Schramko. I will let you know when you have 30 seconds remaining on the clock and begin when you're ready.
Mr. Schramko, you're currently self-muted. If you could press the microphone button on your GoToWebinar interface. There you go.
Hello?
Thank you.
Can you hear me? How you doing? All right, for a little history lesson for those who don't know the facts. In the past year, there was 28 shootings. Prior to that, there was like 5 to 7, and 5 to 7 the year before that. And Lori's name is all over that stuff. So those of you who are in favor of her, you want to kiss her butt, I highly advise you to go through my emails as public record and look at all the stuff she's done. Hello? Hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, so I know of firsthand at least 20 people that were hurt really bad because of a sign that was blocking the view of people in the school zone. The sign is still lit up. It's still causing accidents, okay? I have pictures of a kid on a motorcycle. His leg was ripped forward because the car couldn't see around the sign. The sign is still up. To me, that's fairly important. Another major safety thing, and a lot of you don't know this. These are my emails to her, so I'm telling you now. Lights for the kids. Everybody's mad about the kids. What are we gonna do for the kids? Nothing's been done in any of the parks, okay? The kids were coming out of COVID. They couldn't do anything. I have a daughter as well. The kids can't do anything. They still can't do anything. These are kids. They need to be able to play outside, okay? We have major public safety issues. And also to the attorney that started out everything early in the meeting, you're talking about new law changes. So I highly advise you not to close the public boat ramps at 4th of July. Because last year when you did that, you literally put half the commercial fishermen out of business locally. That's a little bit of advice. That's pretty much, I mean, I'm not trying to be completely negative, but the Lori thing, when you guys want to stick up for her and come up with your little, you know, tit for tat crap, let's move the city forward. You know, she's gone. Screw her. She's gone. You know what I mean? Who cares whose office somebody's in? They're running the city. I don't give a shit if they get the whole top floor. You know what I mean? Let's move on, be smart. You know, let's work together. But this negative stuff in this meeting, you're scaring people from coming to the meeting that are going to bring positive change to the town because you sit in there and you scream and it's everybody's part of it. You know, I don't give a shit what part of the town you are. There's too many people bringing too much negative stuff in there. And if you want to move the town forward and you want people's backs, you got to calm it down and you got to think straight and focus and let's get this town moving in the right direction. That's all I got to say. Hello?
Thank you. Let's move on to the next speaker. Mr. McNally, can you unmute that person?
Yes, the next speaker is Dr. Stephanie Hayden. And I see her registered twice now. Let's try this first one.
Hello?
Yes, please begin when you're ready, and I'll let you know when you have 30 seconds left.
Okay, can you give me a second, please, because I have to remove myself from one device.
Okay, like I said, you can send Dr. Hayden or I a message or a question if you're stuck on a problem. We'll do our
Can you
best
hear
to
me?
help you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Way that
Okay.
you shouldn't be using it.
Hold on one
The
second.
first consequence would be the warning, and the second consequence, your parents will be notified of misconduct. Okay, so looks like we have almost everybody. Hopefully.
Can you hear me still?
Yes, begin when
Okay.
you are ready.
All right, I'll let you, I just want to make sure that my volume, you can hear my volume.
We can hear you loudly and clearly. I'm going to begin the timer now.
All right, thank you, Mr. McNally, the moderator for the session tonight. I just want to make sure that I speak concise when I'm speaking. My name is Dr. Stephanie Hayden. I reside at 2181 Southwest 15th Avenue, condo N102, Boynton Beach, Florida, 33426. It is unfortunate that some of the meetings, in some opinion of our residents, and others that are not from this area believe that it is vitriol, etc. But you must understand that sometimes when your back is against the wall and you're not being heard, sometimes the room is not going to be comfortable for those that are commonplace, right? They're used to having a yes, 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 no opposition in a meeting, and they just pass things and things just happen inside of the room. And none of the residents are tuned in to what's going on, right? And having this option of having webinars or in person, etc., gives us a sort of kind of inside view of what is going on within the city, right? 2 years has gone by, 2.5 years has gone by, and this has been our mode of showing up or coming in, right? But for those of you like the gentleman that spoke about a shooting that occurred in the city way back when I was not alive, but you can tell that the commonplace of doing things as business is not comfortable with those that have been coming to you day in and day out through conversations, through emails, through having press conferences, through having days of remembrance, to realize that this is important to them, right? If something is important to you, you want everyone to hear. You're gonna go to the largest top of a balcony to scream it until someone hears you. So I don't care if someone comes and says, oh, the decorum that's happening in these meetings is making people uncomfortable. It needs to make people uncomfortable.
30 seconds.
Someone died. 3 people died senselessly because someone that had the power as a leader to make decisions with a concise group of people that sit on a diocese, right? So I don't want to hear anybody saying, oh, this is looking bad on our, I don't care. The people that should have thought about it is the people that are elected. That's your job, to listen to your constituents, not to sit there and to look pretty and cute in suits and nice makeup.
Your time has
That's
expired.
not what you're
Thank you so much.
Yeah, but there was technical difficulties before I started. So
I did
please
not
don't
set
do
the
that.
timer
Please
until you
don't
actually
do
got
that. When
started.
Mr. McNally, whatever his
Thank you
name
so much.
is, come on here and he talks about nothing, you extend his time. Please don't do that. Thank you.
All right, that was the last of our speakers. Thank you so much, everybody. We're going to move on to the next portion of the agenda, which is administrative. Item 5A. This is an item that's on the table. Let me just read the item and then we'll circle to it. Consideration. Excuse me, sir. Sir.
You're not gonna respond to nobody. Everybody looking up and you ain't responding now. I'm gone. God be the glory.
Item 5A says, consideration of a special city commission meeting to accept staff ranking of applications to the notice of fund. Officers, please close the door. Item 5A says, consideration of a special city commission meeting to accept staff ranking of applications to the notice of funding opportunities for use of the city's American Rescue Plan Act funds and to award funds based upon application eligibility and proposed programming. So from what I recall, we had scheduled, this commission had scheduled
Mayor,
a workshop. Yes, sir.
motion to remove from table.
When I remove from the table, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Some conversation. We scheduled a workshop to go over this.
That's what I was about to
Okay.
say. We did schedule a workshop, and that workshop is going to bring all of us up to date on the ARP itself. And then at that point, once everybody's brought up to speed, we can make a decision of how we want to proceed forward and when we want to proceed forward with the applications.
I have no problem with that. It was on the table and parliamentary procedures called for it to be removed from the table. That's all I was saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got
I
no
agree
issue
with
with that. I just want to make sure we're all up to date so we know.
I agree with what you're saying. I don't have a problem with that.
Okay, so we're on the same page. So we all know that we have a workshop coming up. Can we get the date? Let me get it up. May 18th. It is from 5:30 to 7:30. And is it at Intracoastal? If I remember correctly? Maybe not. Mr. Scott, could you remind us of those specifics?
David Scott, Director of Economic Development and Strategy, City of Boynton Beach. It'll be here in the Commission chambers.
Okay. Thank you so much.
5:30 to 7:30, 2 hours.
Any other comments or questions from members of the commission? Okay, we're going to move on to the next item, 5B.
Mayor, sorry, Crystal Gibson, City Clerk.
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Hay made a motion to remove this item from the table. I didn't hear a second.
I'll go ahead and second that.
We have a motion and a second to remove the item from the table. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those who oppose say no. The motion passes. The item has been removed from the table.
Yeah, I guess that what that did is that now you've confirmed you had the discussion on it and that the workshop
Yes.
will be on May 18th.
5B, we're appointing a City of Boynton Beach
Excuse
elected.
me, Mayor Pinsuga, are we the public allowed to speak on this?
Council?
Well, did you take any action? I think it was just announced you were going to have a
We were
workshop.
just announcing that we're going to have a workshop on it.
Okay, I just want people to be aware that this
Absolutely.
was rescheduled because you didn't bother to show the day after you were elected, and that's why the meeting was canceled.
All right, we're moving on. Let me try that one more time. 5B, appoint a City of Boynton Beach elected official to the Local Affordable Housing Advisory Committee pursuant to Florida Statute 420.9076, the State Housing Initiatives Partnership Program. Can we have staff give us just a brief overview of this item and so we can make a discussion and a decision? It's not on. Oh, 1 second, go ahead.
Hold on,
Try,
go back.
try it one more time.
Mayor and Vice Mayor, Commissioner, this is RJ Ramirez. I'm the Community Improvement Manager. And this is in reference to the State Housing Initiative Partnership Program, CHIP program as it's called. And this program requires for an elected official to be part of the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee. Previously, we have former Commissioner Romulus as the appointed representative. And as an alternative, we have Commissioner Hay serving in that as an alternative. So now it comes the time to find or appoint a new commissioner for this Affordable Housing Advisory Committee. So it is, if you have any question.
Yes, Vice Mayor.
How often are these meetings?
There are 2 required meetings by statute that the elected official need to attend. One of them happened a few months ago. Commissioner Hay attended that virtual meeting. And there is another virtual meeting that is about to be scheduled. I was waiting for the commission to appoint a representative. I will be sending an email and that meeting will be scheduled virtually. And then there are at least 3 other meetings that are the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee takes place. One of them is a workshop that we go over 11 incentives that are set out by the program. And then there are 2 in-person meetings where we work on putting together a report for the commission regarding those 11 incentives set out by the state. So at least 3 in-person meetings plus 2 other meetings that the commissioner are need to attend.
So we need to make an appointment for a representative and an alternate. So would anyone like to make a nomination for either of the 2 positions? And if I understood correctly, you are the current alternate. Is that right, Commissioner Hay?
That's correct.
Okay. So would anyone like to make a nomination? Well, hearing none, I would recommend that Commissioner Hay, since you served as alternate, that you step up. Would that be something that you would be agreeable to? All right. So we need someone else to be an alternate.
Oh.
Would you like to be the alternate, Vice Mayor?
I was gonna second that.
Okay. Well, let's make the motion together. So we just need
Sure.
we have a representative and now we need an alternate.
I'll nominate Amy Kelly
All right.
as an alternate.
So the representative will be Commissioner Hay. The alternate will be Commissioner Kelly. May I have a motion to make those appointments?
So moved.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There is a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. The motion passes. Thank you. We are now moving on to appoint eligible members of the community to serve in vacant positions on city advisory boards. The last time I checked, which was earlier today, there were no applicants. I'm sorry.
I do apologize. I don't want to be out of order, but I'm sorry.
Go
During
ahead.
the time of public, there were a couple of questions that the gentleman had, and you said for him to address, put all of them out there, and you were going to address them. So we're just trying to figure out, do we wait to the end or just, you know?
So I made an announcement earlier that we will follow up with the speakers after the meeting.
Okay, we're just
But-
trying to,
but
I just
staff
need
took notes.
clarification. Maybe I wasn't here for that.
No
So thank you
worries,
so much.
no worries. But we did take notes and we're going to make sure we follow up with you after the meeting. All right. Again, I was speaking about appointing eligible members of the community to serve in vacant positions on city advisory boards. There were no applicants. But I do want to announce where the vacancies are. So if anyone is interested, we have a vacancy in the Building Board of Adjustments and Appeals, Education and Youth Advisory Board, Historical Resources Preservation Board, Library Board, Planning and Development, Recreations and Park, Senior Advisory Board, and that is it. All right.
There's no vacancies in the CRA board, advisory board?
Ms. Gibson, could you speak to if there are any vacancies on that?
There are none listed because there are no vacancies at this moment.
Okay. We're now moving on to consent agenda. Is there anyone who would like to pull an item from consent agenda? If there are none, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those who oppose say no. The ayes have it. The motion passes unanimously. Consent agenda is approved. There are no items under bids and purchases over $100,000. So now we're going to move on to public hearing. Mr. Cerullo?
This is an ordinance of the city of Boynton Beach, Florida, amending Chapter 2, Administration, Article 3, Elections, Section 2-41, Voting Districts of the Code of Ordinances, establishing revised redistricting boundary maps, providing for complex severability, codification, and effective date. This is the second reading, and this is a public hearing.
All right. So the way I'd like to proceed is if we can have a short presentation from the team to come on up. After the presentation, we'll take questions and comments from members of the commission. I'll accept a motion and a second, then we'll bring it to the public for any comments.
Good evening.
Do we have the PowerPoint?
I'm loading that up right now, Mayor Pinsurga. Just a second.
As the PowerPoint's loading, my name is James Gamma Clark. I'm a senior instructor with Florida Atlantic University's Geosciences Department. I'm also joined here this evening by Dr. Ron Schultz, also of the Geosciences Department of Florida Atlantic University. And we're very happy to be back, Mr. Mayor, commissioners, members of the public. And of course, we're here this evening to discuss again the redistricting alternatives that we were asked to prepare for the city. If you could advance to the next slide, please. So just a quick outline. I'll touch on the redistricting team a little bit more to discuss the members that aren't with us this evening. We'll talk very briefly about the data that was used as part of this project. We'll talk about the redistricting parameters that we used to guide us in this effort. And then we'll talk about how those parameters apply to your existing districts and also talking about the future growth. We'll then get into the meat of the presentation where we discuss the 4 alternatives that we prepared for you, and of course, finish up with a brief summary. So in addition to myself and Dr. Schultz, other members of our team include Dr. Barasa and Michael Stam of the Department of Urban and Regional Planning, also with Florida Atlantic University. Next slide, please. So if I may, I'd like to read for you the pertinent part of your city charter that deals with redistricting. And I must commend the city on your city charter. It's very specific on the redistricting issues, where some of the other cities that we work with, it's a little bit more vague. So this language is very helpful. It states, geographic boundaries for each voting district shall be designated, prepared, and identified commencing 90 days after the 2020 census report is published, and every 10 years thereafter, by contract to the city of Boynton Beach with a 4-year college or university or educational research institution located within the state of Florida to be selected by the City Commission of the city of Boynton Beach. The election districts shall be of equal population, compact, proportional, and logically related to the natural internal boundaries of the neighborhoods within the city. The principle of non-discrimination and one man, one vote shall be adhered to strictly. So there's a lot of parameters in there that are very particular and certainly aligned with our redistricting parameters, which I'll discuss in just a moment. Next slide, please. So the data that we've used in this particular project is the same data that's used in all redistricting efforts across the country, no matter which level of government we're discussing. So specifically, we're talking about the U.S. Census Bureau's 2020 census redistricting file. The only distinction from this effort to other projects is the particular enumeration unit that we use. And in this case, we use the U.S. Census block, which is the smallest enumeration unit that's made available by the U.S. Census. And we use this particular data set because it provides us with the necessary spatial resolution to carve up an area as small as a municipality, as opposed to a congressional district, for example. The other data that we used in this case was housing data provided to us by the city of Boynton Beach. And the reason that we did this was to create a population projection. And that's because you don't want to go through all the effort and all the time and all the expense of creating new districts, only for those to quickly fall out of alignment as new development comes online. And obviously, due to the pandemic, the census data's release was delayed. And so we're now standing here today more than 2 years after the census was initially taken. And of course, this projection runs out to January of 2023, which takes into account developments that you already have in process. Next slide, please. So the parameters that we use in our process are as follows. And again, these align very carefully with your charter, so they're consistent. Our first criterion is to seek to achieve reasonable population balance across the districts. Specifically, legal precedent states that a maximum 10% overall deviation from ideal size across the districts should not be exceeded. And so that's certainly the first criterion that we seek to abide by. We also, of course, seek to adhere to Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, which prohibits arbitrary dilution of minority population clusters and other discriminatory practices. And again, we certainly abide by that, and this, again, is consistent with your charter. Also consistent with your charter, our second criterion, we seek geographic contiguity and appropriate compactness. So where possible, we follow major natural and man-made boundaries. And of course, we also maintain respect for the integrity of communities of interest. So population equality is of primary importance. And again, that's, if we go back to the charter, is to make sure that we observe the one person, one vote principle. If you end up with a city that, a district that has considerably more people than another district, then the people of the larger district become underrepresented. So that's why we're here. We're here to make sure that fairness is achieved for all the residents of the city of Boynton Beach. Next slide, please. So here we see a map of the existing districts of Boynton Beach. Of course, you're all very familiar with those, and these are the districts that we'll be seeking to modify as part of this process to make sure that each district has as close to equal population as possible. Next slide, please.
We have a request from a member of the commission to please go back one slide.
These are the district boundaries that are in existence as of this moment, as of today.
All right, can we proceed? Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. So referring to the 2020 data, the population of the city of Boynton Beach is 80,380. If we divide that by 4, that gives us the average population for each district of 20,095. Next slide, please. Of course, as requested, we did the population projection out to 2023, and we found that, referring to the data that you provided, that by 2023, we can expect that your population will be 83,490. And again, if we divide that by 4, it gives us a new average population of 20,873. So this is the magic number that we're working towards as part of this process. Ideally, each of the 4 districts would be as close to 20,873 as possible, such that every resident of those districts have equal representation in their commissioners. Next slide, please. So what we find is that your existing commission districts are unbalanced. So we need to engage in the redistricting process, as we have done. Your total deviation for all the 4 districts is 16.19%. If we divide that by 4, that provides us with the mean deviation of 4.05%. We also have a spread, that is the difference between the largest district and the smallest district, which comes out to 11.4%. So this spread number exceeds that 10% threshold that's identified in standard legal precedent. So it's because we're above that number that we're engaging in this redistricting process, that we have to adjust the boundaries to make sure it's fair for every resident of the city. Next slide, please. So we did prepare for you 4 different alternatives. All meet standard districting guidelines. They are alternative ways to better balance district populations. All 4 of the alternatives are consistent with the 1965 Voting Rights Act. That is to say, minority populations are not artificially diluted in any of these 4 alternatives. Also, we took into consideration the comments and concerns of the sitting commission at the time as we were going through the particular process. The overall pattern of district boundary changes needed to reduce the population of districts 1 and 3 while expanding that of District 4. This, of course, necessitated an adjustment of the geographic boundaries where Districts 1 and 3 contracted in size, whereas District 4 needed to add territory. Next slide, please. Thank you. So just to recap the timeline of how we got here, we started this project back in October of 2021 when we had a kickoff meeting with staff. We followed that up in December where we met individually with each of the commissioners. Of course, that was during the pandemic, so those meetings were all held remotely via Zoom or something equivalent thereof. And then in February, we submitted our report with our 4 alternatives. On March 1st, the commission met, and at that time, they selected as their preferred alternative, Alternative 1. On April 5th, there was a first reading where, again, Alternative 1 was voted on. And that brings us today, May 3rd, where we hope to have at some point this evening a second reading and adoption. And of course, subsequent to that, these maps would be submitted to your supervisor of elections. Next slide, please. So Alternative 1 represents a minimalist approach. That is, it impacts the fewest number of geographic areas in terms of change. It does improve overall population balance. And this is achieved by swapping territory between Districts 1 and 4 and moving territory from Districts 3 to 2. During the comment section that I alluded to before, several commissioners had suggested that the boundary between Districts 2 and 3 should be a straight line. And so in this case, that's achieved by establishing Boynton Beach Boulevard and its easterly extension as that boundary. Next slide, please. So here we see a map of the entire city that shows the 3 areas that would be changed from the existing districts to the new districts. And if you go to the next slide, please, you'll see the areas have changed. We've zoomed in on that to reveal them more clearly. So these are just 3 changes from the existing districts to achieve the map that you would see under alternative 1. Next slide, please.
What you want it to be? Went too fast.
Sir, please proceed. We can always recap towards the end.
So so you should know, we do have at the end of the presentation a side-by-side of all the alternatives. Okay, so again, here we see a map of what the district boundaries would look like under alternative 1, showing the whole city. And if you go to the next slide, we'll see again, zoomed in on those areas of change, what those boundaries look like. So just 3 areas of change to achieve this particular alternative and population balance. Next slide, please. Good. So we'll go through the specific boundary changes, and obviously, for the sake of expediency, I won't repeat myself as if any of these boundary changes are common to other alternatives. But here under alternative 1, what we find is that District 4 is 1,491 people below the ideal average, whereas District 1 is 800 people above it. So we address this imbalance by making 2 changes. The first moves 919 people from District 4 to District 1, and specifically we're talking about that portion of the city found between Gateway Boulevard in the north and the C-16 Canal in the south, and west of Congress Avenue. Next slide, please. The second change moves 1,978 residents from District 1 to District 4. So this represents a net positive gain of 1,059 residents for District 4. Remember, District 4 is the one that needs to grow, and so that's achieved by this particular adjustment. However, it does require a split of Renaissance Commons, specifically that portion of the neighborhood found to the north of Renaissance Drive. It's bounded by Gateway Boulevard to the north, Congress Avenue to the west, and the E4 Canal to the east. Next slide, please. Under the existing district boundaries, District 2 is 200 people below the ideal average, while District 3 is 889 people above the average. So under this particular change, District 2 acquires 405 people from District 3, specifically that part of District 3 presently found north of Boynton Beach Boulevard and east of Federal Highway. This, of course, includes the Casa Costa condos. As noted previously, this straightens the boundary between these 2 districts, and this change is also included in Alternative 3. Next slide, please. So what we find is that the overall deviation is much improved under Alternative 1. The total deviation falls from 16.19% down to 6.61%. This gives us a mean deviation of 1.65%. The spread falls from 11.4% down to 4.39%. So well below that 10% threshold. Next slide, please. Now we move on to Alternative 2. Rather than splitting Renaissance Commons, it is moved in its entirety into District 4. So this makes the border between Districts 1 and 4 the C. Stanley Weaver or the C-16 Canal. This does create a domino effect where District 1 is forced east to I-95, taking territory from District 2, which in turn forces District 2 to expand elsewhere. It does so both to the southeast and to the northwest, taking territory from Districts 3 and 4. Next slide, please. So here we can see the 4 changes that would occur from the existing districts to make the new boundaries were you to adopt Alternative 2. And if you can move to the next slide, you'll see those 4 areas zoomed in on to reveal them in greater detail. Next slide, please. Here we see what your boundaries would look like were you to adopt Alternative 2, showing again the whole city. And if we can move on to the zoom in, thank you very much. you can see those 4 areas of change and the impact they have on the appearance of your boundaries. Next slide, please. So in this case, rather than splitting Renaissance Commons in 2, it's moved in its entirety into District 4. This results in a shift of 2,912 residents from District 1 into District 4, excuse me. Recall that District 4 is 1,491 people below the ideal average, and that District 1 was 800 people above it. So further adjustments are going to be required to achieve the balance that we're seeking. Specifically here, the Renaissance Commons is bounded by the C16 Canal, Gateway Boulevard, the E4 Canal, and Congress Avenue. This change is also included in alternatives 3 and 4, so just a note so that we don't have to cover this again on those alternatives. Next slide, please. Thank you. District 1 acquires 1,677 residents from District 2. Specifically, this represents a net loss of 435 people for District 1, which helps improve the population equity that we're seeking. That part of District 2, presently found between the C16 Canal in the north and Boynton Beach Boulevard and Old Boynton Road in the south, and between the I-95 in the east and the E4 Canal in the west. Again, this change is included in Alternative 3. Next slide, please. District 4 must give up territory to its east. So specifically, we're talking about that part of District 4 presently found to the north of Minor Road between 95 and the eastern boundary of the High Ridge Country Club, together with that area between Gateway Boulevard and Minor Road in the north-south direction, and 995 and the western boundaries of both Canterbury at Quantum Village and Quantum Village in the east-west direction. This area is home to 1,149 residents, and this change is also included in Alternatives 3 and 4. Thank you very much. District 2 is completed by acquiring 691 people from District 3. So we're talking about that part of the city that's east of Federal Highway between Ocean Avenue and Northeast 4th Avenue and its easterly extension. And of course, this includes both the Casa Costa condos and the marina. Next slide, please. So the overall deviation is much improved under Alternative 2. The total deviation falls to 4.51%, while the mean deviation falls to 1.13%. The spread falls down to 3.39%. And it's worth noting that empirically speaking, this alternative represents the best population equity of the 4 alternatives that we're presenting to you this evening and as part of your report. Thank you. Next slide. So Alternative 3 is a slight variation of Alternative 2. It builds off of Alternative 2. Alternative 3 is identical in every way to Alternative 2, except for the marina, which is retained by District 3 under this alternative. So what we're doing here is we're sacrificing some population balance, which of course is our first criterion, in favor of greater spatial compactness, which is our second criterion. As with Alternative 1, therefore, the boundary between Districts 2 and 3 is made a straight line, where that straight line is Boynton Beach Boulevard and its easterly extension. Next slide, please. Here we can see a map of the entire city, showing the changes that would be made to your existing boundaries under this particular alternative. And if we can go to the next slide, thank you, you'll see that those 4 changes zoomed in on. Here we see a map of the entire city as to what your boundaries would look like were you to adopt Alternative 3. And if you can go to the next slide, you'll see a zoom in of the changed boundaries. Thank you. Next slide. So overall deviation is improved under Alternative 3. The total deviation falls to 7.25%, while the mean deviation falls to 1.81%. The spread falls to 4.4%. Next slide, please. Thank you very much. And so finally, we have Alternative 4. It builds off Alternative 2. Again, under this alternative, Renaissance Commons is moved in its entirety into District 4. However, it establishes I-95 as the border between Districts 1 and 3. District 1 absorbs land taken from District 3. But again, this creates a domino effect where District 3 is forced north, taking territory from District 2, which in turn forces District 2 to expand to the west. So overall, what we have is a slight counterclockwise rotation of your district boundaries. Next slide, please.
Again, here we see a map showing the 4 changes that are occurring to your existing boundaries under this particular alternative. And if you can go to the next map, you'll see those 4 areas zoomed in upon. And here we see the map of the entire city with the boundaries that you would have were you to adopt alternative 4. And again, the next slide shows the areas of change zoomed in closer. Thank you. Next slide. So to offset the loss of Renaissance Commons, District 1 must migrate east. In alternatives 2 and 3, this was north of Boynton Beach Boulevard, but in alternative 4, we try the alternate route, which is to have this shift occur to the south. Specifically, that part of District 3 presently found between Woolbright Road and Boynton Beach Boulevard in the north-south direction, and 995 and Southwest 8th Street in the east-west direction. This area is home to 2,399 residents. So this represents a net loss of 513 people for District 1. To offset the previous loss of territory, District 3 must expand north. It absorbs territory and 899 residents from District 2. Specifically, we're talking about that part of District 2 presently found to the east of the FEC Railway and south of the C16 Canal. Next slide, please. So what we find is with alternative 4, that again, the overall deviation is improved. The total deviation falls to 5.85% with a mean of 1.46%, and the spread falls to 4.3%. Next slide, please. So to summarize, all alternatives reduce population differences among the 4 districts. All of them are well below that 10% threshold. Alternative 1 is a minimalist approach that improves population balance while making the fewest adjustments. It does, however, split Renaissance Commons into 2 halves. Alternative 2 moves Renaissance Commons into District 4 and the Marina into District 2. Alternative 3 is a variation of 2, which sacrifices some population balance in favor of improved spatial compactness. That is, it has a straight border between Districts 2 and 3. And Alternative 4, I-95 becomes the border between Districts 1 and 3, and District 3 expands north to the C16 Canal, east of the FEC Railway. Next slide, please. And so here we see all of your statistics summarized. You can see again that if we look at that spread column and the mean deviation column, all of these are well below the 10% deviation threshold. You can see that Alternative 2 has, empirically speaking, the best population equity, whereas Alternative 1 impacts the fewest residents of the city. Next slide. And as promised, we just included at the end here a summary slide that shows all 4 of the maps together side by side. And with that, Ron and I would be very happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Well, thank you so much for that presentation. I'd like to open the floor to questions by members of the commission. Commissioners?
Yes, thank you. Just a couple things from the beginning that I noticed. When it said that you were taking into account construction, was that construction to be completed by the end of 23? Or where are you getting that data from? Because there's a few high rises that are developing right now. We know Riverwalk, on Woolbright and Federal. Broadstone's been approved. I don't know how many units that is, over 200, I believe. And then there's also 115 Federal that I believe is being worked on. And then I think that's it. 2 of those, I believe, have been approved, obviously. So I just want to know where we're getting this data.
The data comes from your staff. It was carefully vetted in conjunction with them. It accounts for not only developments that are ongoing, but also developments that have been completed since Census Day. So that's April 1st of 2020.
So it doesn't include, so my question is, does it include Riverwalk, which is being constructed now? Does it include the Broadstone project, which will be constructed soon?
You'll have to forgive me. Off the top of my head, I don't recall specifically which projects were included, because obviously we've been going through this process for many months now. I will certainly check the data and get back to you on that, okay? But it does include a mixture of multifamily properties and single-family properties provided to us by your staff.
Okay, yeah, I would need to look at that data. The other thing, how much did this study cost? Do we have a staff? Can we answer that?
I believe it was between 25 and 30,000.
25 and 30,000, okay. And then, so with the gain, so it went from, just so I understand, because you were going quite quick, we went from 80,000 to 83,000?
Correct.
Okay. And then when, so you mentioned in the PowerPoint, this would be submitted to supervisor of elections, correct?
Yes, sir.
When would that go into effect?
Well, I would refer to your city attorney, but obviously after you've had your second reading, you have to establish an effective date.
Yeah, it's going to be effective once you pass the ordinance and be provided formally to supervisor of elections, so they can complete their task. I understand we got some information from the supervisor. We were going to advise you later, but once you pass the ordinance, it's effective.
Okay.
And they'll redistrict and do everything else they need to do. The supervisor will.
Okay. So my next question is for, my colleagues. So there's District 4 and District 1. There's a large turn of Renaissance Commons that could be absorbed into District 4. Would that affect either of y'all as far as moving?
Yeah, it appears that option 1 would be the only option that would keep a certain portion of Renaissance in District 1.
Okay.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Part of the rationale, because I recall this particular presentation, a big factor was the least impact on the residents, because there always seems to be confusion of where to go to vote, and we don't need that. Okay, if we can accomplish all the different guidelines that we set with option 1, this was my basis, and I think you were in on that, Mayor, of going with option 1. So that's why I went with option 1 back on the first reading.
Yeah, I'm not talking about that right now. What I'm talking about is if we go with option 1, or if we don't go with option 1, that puts you, what can that do? Maybe this is for legal. Where does that put Commissioner Cruz?
I don't know what the question would be, but it would, obviously when you redistrict, you move eligible voters from one district to another. I don't get into politics where blocks are located, for example. One issue would be if a commissioner lived in an area that was being redistricted to a different district, obviously you could continue serving, but it might affect your ability to be reelected. But other than that, I think that's the best information I can give you on that.
Understood. I just want to make sure if that happens, you're not, what happens to you, right? If we went with a map that would place you in a different district now, she would still be able to continue her term.
Yeah, as far as I understand, you would continue to serve your term. It would just be at that moment, but I'm not really, thank you for your
I'm just
concern.
looking out for you.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And I also want to think of what's best for the city overall and what's potentially less invasive or impacts the fewest residents.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Kelly, did you want to weigh in on any of this?
I had, my only question was, is I watched the presentations, the last 2, so I have studied it. But my question was, in your experience, because if we chose alternative 1, which has the fewest impact on the residents, what is your experience with us then being in a situation quicker with moving the least amount of people, having to maybe consider redistricting again, even, sooner rather than later? I guess it's just a question that I popped up.
Yeah. So some cities have language in their charters that specifically call for redistricting to occur again should it be discovered that the population imbalance exceeds that 10% threshold before the next census comes up. We don't have that language in your charter, so your city attorney might say, well, you're good until the next decennial census. That said, in all of the alternatives that we presented this evening, we're in all of them, well below the 10% threshold. So we have a little room to work with. Of course, it's hard to project where your developments are going to occur. If you have developments that occur equally in all 4 of your districts, you can have a lot of development and yet still remain well under that 10% threshold. So I think we're good in all 4 of the alternatives. Certainly, not impacting residents is not necessarily a criterion that is typically used in redistricting, but it's understandably a concern for a lot of elected officials that they care about whether or not their residents are being confused by lots and lots of moving boundaries. So that's certainly why we include that value in that summary table.
Thank you so much. As for me, I wholeheartedly support Commissioner Hay. Option 1, if we recall from the presentation, it's the only one where you didn't mention that there would be a cascading effect. And so there would be one change after another with option 2 and 4. And the last thing I want is to create that confusion. So that is the same reasoning I had for why I supported option 1 beforehand. We achieve population parity, groups are maintained, we minimize disruptions, and we minimize confusion. So having said that, that is my position. And what I'd like to do now, before I open this up to the public comment, is to get a motion from you. So this way, the public is aware of what the motion is on the table. And this is on the advice of counsel. Commissioner Hay, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, I would like to make the motion that we accept option 1.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, so now I'd like to open the floor for discussion from members of the public. So if you'd like to weigh in, feel free to approach the podium.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to
Yes, sir.
clarify with that motion would be a motion to approve the ordinance as submitted, because the ordinance that is submitted includes option 1.
Yes, that is my understanding.
Yes.
When you vote, you'll be voting up or down on the ordinance itself. Yes.
Okay, 1 second. Let me just reset the timer. Begin when you are ready.
Thank you. Susan Oyer, 140 Southeast 27th Way. I agree with Mayor Pensurga and Vice Mayor Hay. Option 1 is definitely the best way to go. I think the rest are just absolutely inviting a lawsuit for the racial disparities that will happen with District 2. And I'm sure that's what Vice Mayor Hay was looking at too. I think that would just absolutely rip apart District 2. And maybe that's your goal, but somehow I doubt it. I think we all want racial harmony, and I think we all recognize that each of our districts are unique in their characteristics and their traditions and their history and their people and their culture, and having as little disruption as possible is best. And you are completely right, Mayor Pensurga, and I might call you out when I think you're wrong, but I'm going to call you out when I think you're right, and you are definitely right. This is the way to go. And just in listening to the comments while I was sitting back here, it sounds like a lot of people agree. Option 1 is the way to go. We want to continue to see District 2 being strong and proud and maintaining their identity, and this will help with that. And thank you very much.
All right. Go ahead. Begin when you're ready, sir.
I have to give my name?
Yes.
Yeah, Herb Sauce. You guys did a tough job. I think you reached with this option 1. The only question that I have, it's just a sensible thing that you guys did, the commission. In all the districts, will you let people know what the changes are so that, with the elections board, elections are very, important, especially coming up in November. So will there be enough time between now and November for people to notify? Because for some people it's confusing, but you did a good job with this District 1. It's the least situation. So would you, how and when will you let people know about the changes? Do you have any idea?
We'll get staff to respond at the end of all the comments.
Okay, thank you.
It's coming up. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Evening, Commission. Gregory Hartman, 1083 Southwest 25th Place. I'd like to speak in favor of option 2, or particularly option 3. As the esteemed gentleman from FAU said, the amount of change shouldn't be a factor. He put it up there just because. I think equitable solutions, and as a commission that prides itself on equity, is what we should focus on. That would be making sure District 2 has the representation they feel is right for them, and making sure communities that are on the west side of 95 feel represented by their commissioner. The Stanley Weaver Canal gives us a natural boundary, which is one of the #1 issues the gentleman from FAU presented as for what we would do. Renaissance Boulevard, Nord Gateway create a natural boundary where the Stanley Weaver Canal does. I believe the city is more balanced east to west, and people would agree on the east side is different than the west side and the north is different from the south. As we have it now, including Renaissance Commons into District 1 is not in character for the community. I don't believe Hunter's Run and Renaissance Commons have a lot in common. Keeping those two in the same district, I think, is a disservice to the people, and it's not equitable. Option 3, I thought was a very strong option, and I also thought option 2 was great. I think it's a matter of making sure it's representation. The amount of people that are affected, I don't think they'll mind having to go from one precinct to another. There's precincts all over. I think what they would really mind is making sure they're represented by the proper person in their city. So they're not represented by someone who doesn't live in their district, who can't even understand what it's like to go into their neighborhood. So I think making sure there's an east-west, north-south, and using the Stanley Weaver Canal as that divider would be the most equitable solution for our city. I thank you for your time, commissioners.
Good evening. My name is Sandra Watson, 348 Boynton Bay Circle, Boynton Beach, Florida, 33435. I just got one concern because I'm totally confused with these districts and all of this stuff. It was too much to give to us and not have the residents look at this and kind of like maybe you should have had a workshop or something where you brought it to us first so that we could understand what was going on. But my issue is I keep hearing people come up here talking about, well, like communities and this community separated from this community and that community over there separated from that community. Now that sign behind you says the city of Boynton Beach. It doesn't say the boroughs of Boynton Beach or the districts of Boynton Beach. It says the city of Boynton Beach. Now, I don't know, because I can't understand this district thing, but I do know that if we're gonna work together as a city, then everybody needs to be concerned about everybody. I don't care that I live on the east side. I am still concerned on what goes on the west side of Boynton Beach, Florida. And that is a big, big issue. And it's been going on and everybody's been saying it over and over and over again. When are we gonna stop that and make sure that we address this as the city of Boynton Beach, Florida? Thank you.
All right, Urban Sines, 245 Quantum Boulevard. A couple of things on my mind. One, it is the city of Boynton Beach, but the reality is that these are single member districts over here in Boynton Beach. Every district votes within its set, and that's how it's set up. And when it comes to things like, what's being segregated and stuff like that, we didn't create that. District 2 is historically the way it is. It was designed to be that way. Y'all don't need a history lesson, but so we could say one Boynton, but it's not the reality voting wise or racially. So, but I do want to say too, I know the motion is on the floor to go with Plan 1. I'm just not sure. I just want to make sure, how does Plan 1 affect eligible voters that are in District 2? How does that change the numbers of eligible voters that are in District 2? Does it bring folks from other places into District 2? Does it keep, how does it affect eligible voters in District 2? Option 1, I'm sorry, specifically.
Can we have this gentleman come up and answer the question?
Commissioners, 1 second, sir. You know, it is my preference that we wait until after all the comments have been made. So this way, when he responds, they can be responded in totality. Is that all right with everybody? We wait until everybody has spoken?
Understood.
Okay. Sir? All right. Are there any other public speakers? All right, so let's hear the,
Mayor Pensurga, I have the virtual audience hands raised option enabled. Right now I have one comment or one hand raised, and that is Lawrence Schramko.
thank you, Mr. McNally. We will do the virtual speakers after the in-person speakers. So one more person in the room, then we'll go virtual.
Okay.
Okay.
Christy Ward, 1518 North Seacrest Boulevard. Thank you. I want to piggyback on the fact of that because that was my #1 concern, considering the with the changing of the districting, far as like how does that go according to voters registration and voting, things like that? Because you have to understand, if it comes in too late in the game, then that throws up more red tape, and that comes with different issues. We already have a lot of voter suppression as it already is. So that therefore, I would like to know more into that to get to detail, because he flew through this kind of quickly. Like it was kind of like trying to sell me a lemon on, so I would like to know more about that.
All right. Any other in-person speakers, please approach the podium now. We do have 2 podiums if that's more convenient.
No, I like to be kind of near the city attorney. Ernest McNally, 710 Northeast 7th. You like that joke, right? Who said no? Oh, yeah.
The clock is ticking, sir. Just please proceed.
I know that. I know that. I like when people make wise answers. Got nothing better to do. Got all your fans out there, all your supporters, Yeah, it's exactly what they do.
Mr.
You're darn
McNally, the
right.
clock is ticking. Please proceed with the topic.
I'm aware of the clock. I can use my time the way I want.
You're
Just
speaking
want to
to us,
run
sir.
City Hall now. You want to run the meetings too, right? You think you control everything.
Keep going, sir. The time is ticking.
I don't need you to tell me. I know that. I'm looking right at the clock. You think I'm in your biology class? That you're in 5 days a week for 8 hours a day while this city is left alone without a mayor in an emergency? What are we going to do? Text you when you're teaching frogs up there? What a disgrace. What you're doing with this voting, the public should be involved in all of this. All you really care about is that you maintain your seats. That's all you're thinking about. This lady over here, oh yeah, well, I move, yeah. Who cares? Who cares? And look at all the people you appoint here. Everybody's from out of town. Look, lawyers from Fort Lauderdale.
Sir, is this relevant to the topic?
Relative.
Please stay on topic.
I am on topic. I'm talking about how you're running districting and elections here. It's a farce. I don't know why the state attorney doesn't come in and investigate you all. You understand? Does that make sense? I keep asking them. I asked the inspector general to come in. I asked the state attorney to come in and figure out how you get away with this. And it's relative to districting. And everybody in the public doesn't like what you're doing. But just like you're controlling that office upstairs, you control the city. And now I think what's on your mind is to really control elections. You want to become a strong mayor. Am I right? And you can have my last 50 minutes. If you become a strong mayor, we're in serious trouble.
All right, next speaker.
Yeah,
Please begin when you're ready.
you had a tough job, and reasonably you came to a situation. But getting back to District 1, I hope that my commissioner, on a phone call that I made last week, I left my phone number and a message, and to get back to me as I'm your constituent, you're responsible for District 1. I want to give you a shot, but you got off to a bad start with me by not returning the call. Take 3 days, not counting Saturday and Sunday. I hope, Commissioner, that you stay in touch. I'm going to call you again, And please stay in touch. I'm gonna give you another shot because the people, people in my community, I got you a lot of votes. I worked hard for you. So I'm gonna give you a shot. And the people in my community are gonna ask me tonight what went on. I'm gonna tell them I'm gonna give you another shot. But when we call you, we expect in a reasonable amount of time, a call. You owe it to your constituents. And that goes for the mayor too. Thank you. Who never answer the phone. Bye-bye.
We are moving on to the virtual speakers. Mr. McNally, please unmute the virtual speaker.
Yes, I have Mr. Lawrence Schramko.
Hi, how you doing? Can you hear me?
Please proceed.
So, in my opinion, and it's just an opinion, it seems like we're taking data and stuff that was concluded from the old commission. Okay, this is a new commission. In my opinion, the guy who's running this thing, this is such old data. And like I told you at the last meeting, I literally lied to the person who gave the information about how many people lived here. So I know it's skewed. I know it's fraudulent. It's not accurate information. I know personally because they came to my house during COVID and we weren't allowed to bring people to the front door, but they were allowed to have a mask on. So then the man told me tonight, or the man just said tonight that he got the information from the city, where Grant said he got the information from the federal government. So already we're starting off in a lie. I think we need to redo this, maybe find a different company, something more accurate, because I feel like somebody's going to lose somewhere in the city. And you see the crowd that are coming now with all the negative stuff, it's going to triple, quadruple, because you're going to mess up people's lives. And that's just my opinion. I think you need to move it, look into it more before you make a drastic thing. There's this high rise. Nobody knows how many people. The guy didn't even have the proper data. He's talking about deviation charts that don't exist. I mean, there's too much play in this and it's too drastic of a change and it could be detrimental to our city. You know, we got people coming in and with all these ideas and we haven't fixed anything yet. That's just my opinion. I think you need to push this meeting back and look into it better and maybe find a different company, because that company is not, the guy didn't seem very well educated. You know, $20,000, give him the $20,000, go home, find a different company. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So there was a request from Commissioner Turkin. Sir, if you could come up to the podium and
Thank you. So the question was, how did the number of voters in District 2 change from the existing districts to those under Alternative 1? It's important to note that when you're engaging in redistricting, we don't count voters, we count people. When we say we're talking about the US Census counts people. So that's the number, it's the number of people in each district that's important, whether you're 1 day old, or you're 1 day old baby, or if you're 102 years old, it doesn't matter. Whether you're a voter or not doesn't matter. It's just, are you a person or not? Are you a resident of the city, and in which district are you living? So as we look at the residents of District 2, we see existing, the number for District 2 is 20,673, whereas in Alternative 1, it's 21,078. So we're only talking about a very small change between the existing districts and Alternative 1.
Oh, can you bring up that slide where it shows the numbers, the difference?
I don't have control of the presentation.
Is there a side-by-side between the map now and option 1?
We don't have a slide where we have a side-by-side of the existing districts and the map. What we do have is a map that shows the changes from the existing districts to each of the various alternatives.
Can we pull that up, please?
Which option are you referring to?
Option 1.
Option 1.
Perhaps it would be helpful to go to the change map that zoomed in on the 3 changes that occur under Alternative 1.
One more. If you could go back one more. No, back. To the map that shows the red hatching, that shows the changes. One more.
Is this the correct slide?
Back. No, you're going forward now. If you could go
Okay.
back. And one more. There we go. So here we see the 3 areas of change that are occurring from the existing district maps to what the map would look like under alternative 1.
Thank you. It was just very fast in the PowerPoint.
Always is.
I have no more questions. I just wanted to get a better look at that.
All right, any further questions, comments, discussion from members of the commission? Thank you so much, everybody, for your presentation and the public comments. A motion has been presented forth, and there was a second, so now I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. The motion passes unanimously. We're now moving on to unfinished business. There was a request for.
I'm sorry, Mayor, can I ask for clarification from the clerk? Do we need to do roll call?
That's
Is it
right.
an
I
ordinance?
always forget that. Ordinance, we do roll call. Thank you so much for that reminder.
Are you ready for the roll call?
Yes, please
Okay.
begin.
Mayor Pensurga,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cruz,
Aye.
Commissioner Hay,
Yes.
Commissioner Turkin,
Present.
Commissioner Kelly.
Yes.
Vote is 5-0.
All right, now we're going to move forward to unfinished business, Miss Julie. And this is the search process for the permanent city manager. What are our options? What's the process like?
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Julie Oldbury, Director of Human Resources and Risk Management. I have just a couple of options or suggestions to present to you. One would be to either use an executive search firm to perform a national search for our city manager. And another option is for our Human Resources Department to conduct that same search. With the executive search firm, obviously there is a cost to that, but they tend to have more of a marketing reach to a national audience, and they're maybe a little more, their way that they work, they can do more of a process where they could reach out to passive candidates. They might have that kind of network of candidates in that regard. But as far as conducting that search, Human Resources could do that as well for you. We would just maybe need a little bit of additional assistance from our marketing team to do some of the advertising and things of that nature to help us get the word out a little more globally. So I don't know if you have any questions that.
So to be clear, 2 options.
Yes.
1, hire a search firm, or
Correct.
2, we do it in-house.
Yes.
So let's open the floor to members of the commission. Questions and comments?
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Somebody just go. Commissioner Hay.
I just had a question about if we went with the search firm, do you have any feel for how much that would cost us?
With our recent searches that we have used at the executive level, we've paid approximately $25,000.
Okay.
Now that's all done. We do a request for quote where we get at least 3 respondents to provide figures for us. So again, that's back going, a few years now or maybe 2 years for those processes. So I may anticipate there might be a little bit of a difference. I would say somewhere between anywhere from like 22 to 35,000 would be typically the range that we see.
And how much time would that add to the process if do you have someone in mind, I guess, would it
I wouldn't say that we have someone in mind necessarily, because we would do that transparent request for quote and that, but we have had, being the most responsive recruitment firms that we've used in the past has typically been Strategic Government Resources. They ended up coming in at a decent price for us and have done comprehensive searches for us. And as far as your question regarding would that add anything to the time, I wouldn't necessarily think that it would be any more than a 30 days addition either way.
It's not that I don't have confidence in the HR department, but I think this is important enough that we cover all bases with experienced people who have been there, done that before. I don't know if you have or not, but I don't have a problem with the 25 to get this right, because we have one bite at the apple.
I would disagree. I think we could start with doing this in-house. I mean, anyone who was on the east side of 95 last Friday can see that we have a really bad flooding issue and draining issue. So we need to save, pennies add up. I'm not calling $30,000 pennies, but everything adds up. And we always have the ability to start in-house, see what leads we get, see how we can perform, and then, spend money if we need to. Recruiting and staffing, I do that every single day. It's tough right now. So I can understand, your daily operations, what you do. It's not an easy thing, especially in this unprecedented time, right? Everything's competitive. And so, I think that from a fiscal standpoint, let's try to do it internally. I don't see the rush. We have time. We have an interim that can perform. That's why we put him in that chair. So I would not agree with that to hire an executive firm immediately. I would like to do that internally. And there's you can get creative when it comes to recruiting. And I would like to state too, I know we're doing a nationwide search, but I think it is important for, the city manager to be somewhat local. And so my preference would be someone that is living in the city of Boynton. So you have some, you're a stakeholder in our city. You're going to make decisions, not just on, the citizens of the city, but, for your family too. And I know, our interim mentioned at the previous special commission meeting that he is making arrangements to move into the city, and I commend you for that. I think that's huge, because I think that's not just my concern. I think that's some of my colleagues' concern, as well as a lot of our constituents. So I don't know how we can focal on that. If we did hire an executive firm, how, they look at things objectively. Internally, we're gonna look at it as, all right, hey, let's get the right fit for the city manager. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. Vice Mayor Cruz.
I happen to agree. I don't think that at this time we need an executive firm to help us find our city manager. I think that we should post this publicly to let people know that we are hiring for that position, and we encourage people local to apply. I would love to see somebody who lives or maybe make it a requirement that whoever the city manager is, hoping that it's a local person, ends up moving to the city of Boynton Beach, so they have skin in the game per se. With that being said, I actually agree. I don't want to do a national search. I don't think that we need to go to a different state to find our Boynton Beach city manager. And I think that we also need to look for people within this area. And yes, ideally, it would be somebody who lives in the city of Boynton Beach, but also we want to think about experience, education and experience managing a city of our size, with the fact that we maintain our own departments like our police, fire, utilities, and so forth. So I think that's important as well.
Commissioner Kelly.
I kind of am looking at both ends of it. I think that maybe if we decided to do it internally, that we establish a time frame of how long do we give it before we have to look outside of the box. As it's very difficult to fill many local positions. And so I fear that by setting it and just saying, this is what we're doing, or pushing forward with keeping it, keeping it local and having our HR do it, I fear that we're maybe missing out on some potential. So my thought would be to not rule out the possibility of having an executive search. Sometimes that doesn't do well because it's the same players that are in that realm too. And so you're not getting somebody who's maybe just really out there looking for something different. So sometimes you're seeing the same resumes, you're seeing the same people coming across your desk. And so maybe you're not getting that variety in somebody who really just wants this job for what it is. And so, so that's kind of my thought, is I'm kind of on both. I see both positives in both ends, and that maybe we consider putting a time frame on if we decide to do internal. I would likely support the majority on the decision, but my input would be that maybe we consider doing a time frame of how long do we try and do it on our own without, and then consider enlisting the help of an executive search firm to help us if we can't find something.
So thank you for that. I agree with Commissioner Turkin. I think if we can begin internally first, let's do it for 30 days. Let's see what we get. And if we need to cross that boundary, then let's cross that bridge and go to a service. But let's begin first internally. And this way we minimize expenses and we're giving both options a shot. Commissioner Turkin?
Yeah, just a couple more questions. Sorry. So when you are hiring and recruiting, I understand that there's, you have the requisitions on the city website. What are we using? Indeed? Are we using jobs.com, Monster? Do we use those platforms?
We can use a variety of platforms, and I would recommend, doing that.
Right.
We do consistently post on those, and Indeed does pick up our positions. We have other avenues as well. I would also recommend advertising with like ICMA, the International City Managers Association, and then the Florida City and County Managers Association, FCCMA. SGR, that recruitment firm, also has a job board, which we subscribe to, Careers in Government. We have a lot of different avenues to explore, and we will absolutely put our full effort forth in this. I know you had some questions, and I can wait till the end, but I wanted to maybe just offer this for your consideration as well. Back in 2011, we had endeavored to do an internal city manager search at that time. And when I say internal, I mean using human resources as the conduit for that. And what we did is human resources developed a timeline, a process. We provided the commission with a copy of the job description. I met with each of the commissioners individually just to get a sense and a feel of what each of you are looking for in your city manager, to help us kind of design a profile in mind for that, for our recruitment efforts, to get that out there. I don't know if that's something you would all be interested in. I know it's a little bit of a unique position because it's, obviously all of your business needs to be conducted in the open forum. So I want to just be cognizant to get you that type of information and maybe come back to you at a future meeting with all of that information laid out. We can maybe talk about different search process options, timelines, and maybe at that point give you a little, perhaps maybe a structure to that, what it might look like, where we might consider advertising, things of that nature. And just that way you would have something a little more concrete to look at. Just offering that as a suggestion. I don't know that, you know.
That's some great feedback. But I want to get back to what you mentioned, everything you're going to do. Everything that you propose and what you're going to do is exactly what an executive firm is going to do. And then they'll probably hire a headhunter to filter through resumes. And, you know, we don't need to do it. I don't think I have faith in you.
Thank you.
But again, it's a competitive market. I would say 60 days would be, I think, a fair timeline given, you know, again, unprecedented times with how competitive each industry is. So that's, you know, and I like your idea of collaboration amongst the commission. I don't know if we can collaborate on that now, or if we can postpone to collaborate, you know, legal. I don't know if that's a violation of, you know.
You're having a discussion this evening. You're free
Right.
to, if you can have.
I meant when she mentioned meeting us individually.
When you meet with her individually, she's collecting information where she's going to provide that collective information back to the commission at a public meeting.
Okay.
So she's not going to be discussing with you all each other's comments, concerns, thoughts, priorities, etc. She's going to, like the vessel of that information, and she's going to bring it back to a commission for your public discussion. And so you all will publicly vet it and come to a consensus together on that information. It's to assist her in formulating the process, what I understood.
Great. I just wanted to double check.
Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you, Ms. Olberry. So can we get consensus from the commission? Is this the process that we'd like to proceed in? Meet with us individually, then we'll come back next meeting with something more concrete. All right, we have a consensus. Yes, go ahead.
Before you give that direction, I just want to comment that I don't know if next meeting would make it for the agenda. Catherine, with our publishing deadline, would June 6th be too late to, in order for me to schedule time to meet with each of you and then compile that report? Is that
I'm fine with that.
appropriate for your timeline?
Yeah,
Okay,
yes.
all right.
Thank you. That would be helpful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We're now moving on to legal. Mr. Cirillo.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Commission, back again to formally request approval of a private attorney-client session of the City Commission pursuant to Section 286-0118 of Florida statutes in the case of City of Boynton Beach versus JKM BTS Capital LLC, Palm Beach County Circuit Court case number 50-2020 CA 012780-8XXXX. MB. The reason this is back before you is when we requested it the first time, there's been a change in folks that will be attending that meeting. We need to note that on the record. And we also have a new commissioner. And so the formalities of the statute require us to announce that those will be in attendance, and there is a list in there. I'll just go forward with it. The City Attorney James Sharop, Assistant City Attorney Donald J. Duty, Assistant City Attorney Gal Batesh, Assistant City Attorney Sean Schwartz. Now, these are all going to either attend or by phone or in person, as well as Special Litigation Counsel Thomas Baird and Jean O'Connor, Interim City Manager Jim Stables. There will be a court reporter present in those proceedings, so they announced that they're there, as well as the mayor and the commission. It does say approximately 90 minutes. I would plan on between 90 minutes and 2 hours. For this. And as I indicated before, it was previously approved by the commission, but it's now before you tonight to confirm it since there's a change in those listed attendees.
All right, everybody have their calendars out?
Yeah. Yeah, we'll coordinate that with you all. I don't know that we have to coordinate with the attorneys and whatnot and get together with you guys to set that date and time.
Oh, okay, we'll do that. Okay.
All right.
No, we didn't set a specific date before.
You can, you know, I guess if you have a date and time, you could give us some options. You know, we want to do it the next few weeks, but if you give us some times that work with you, we can attempt to work with the attorneys. I know it's kind of hard sometimes, like herding cats, but if you have any thoughts.
I'm willing to clear my schedule for this as long as it's at least 4, if not later in the afternoon during a weekday.
Okay.
Or on the weekends, I'm flexible.
How do we feel about Friday, the 13th? Is it too soon?
Oh, that's bad luck.
Okay. Well, they're gonna be in City Hall. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, on Friday the 13th. So.
20th then.
How about, okay, the 20th is,
That is also another Friday. That's the following Friday. Do we have any? Yeah, do we have any city events, CRA events? Not that I can
Seeing
see.
none.
No.
I'm,
I don't know. Well,
Can we make it a tentative meeting and then, you
yeah, if
check
you
with
want to
the
give us some
attorneys?
proposed times and we
Yeah,
can,
that-
we can
that's-
confirm that. So if you have if you have some proposed dates on May 20th at say, at 4 PM,
4:30.
yeah, we'll see. We can make that work.
Sounds good. And if anything else comes up, just let staff know.
And if it doesn't, we'll just coordinate with schedules and we'll go from there.
All
Thank
right. Members of the commission, is there anything else? Any final comments? Staff, any final comments? No. Being that we're at the end, may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? We have a motion and we have a second. Have a great night, everybody.